The amazing Mr. Malone.
Operator, get me the office of John J. Malone.
The American Broadcasting Company presents The Amazing Mr. Malone, an exciting half hour of mystery created by Craig Rice and starring Gene Raymond. Our locale is the city of Chicago, the time, the present, and the hero of these weekly adventures, the amazing Mr. Malone.
Malone is the name. John J. Malone, attorney and counselor at law. And before we get underway tonight, I'd like to thank all our old clients and welcome the new ones who came by. We'll be here every week at this time, so if you're in the neighborhood, drop in. You're always sure to meet some interesting people. Take Paul Conrad, for example. Mr. Conrad is the stocky gentleman marching down the fourth floor corridor of the Benson building. You can tell from his walk that he's a man with confidence in himself. And when he comes to a door marked Larry Hogan, Private Investigations, he doesn't hesitate for a second, but barges right in. Yes. Mr. Conrad is a boy who knows his way around.
Hello, Hogan.
Huh?
I said hello.
Oh. You know, it's a funny thing, Mr. Conrad, but I was just thinking about you.
All right. Let me in on the joke.
Huh?
You said it was a funny thing, and I could stand a laugh these days.
Oh, you know what I mean. Hey, why don't you sit down?
What's the matter, Hogan? Don't you think I can take it standing up? What have you got for me?
Well, it's like I told you on the phone, Mr. Conrad. You know, you can't rush these things. Now, you take a a lady like your wife.
Now we're getting down to cases. Who's the boy Doris has been seeing?
Well, we haven't been able to run him down yet, but I expect I'll have something for you by next week.
That's what you told me 1 month and $400 ago. Just what kind of a chump do you take me for, anyway?
No, I resent that, Mr. Conrad.
Oh, don't get me wrong, Hogan. I don't blame you. I certainly acted like one. What's the man's name?
Let me go.
Come on, Hogan. I'm losing my patience. Well?
You think you're smart?
Not where my wife is concerned. Otherwise, I'd never let a gun-off like you bleed me. Now, who's the boy Doris has been seeing? Didn't you hear me, Hogan?
Sherman. Jackie Sherman.
Jackie Sherman, huh? Where'll I find him?
At the Brighton Apartments.
That's very kind of you, Mr. Hogan. Now, if you'll be good enough to make out a check for all the dough you've clipped me for, why, I won't trouble you again.
Just a second.
Hello, Jackie.
Doris, what are you doing here?
Now, darling, you're not going to be angry with me. I couldn't stay away.
Oh, look, Doris.
Oh, don't be mean, Jackie. Honest, I couldn't help myself. I was sitting home all by my lonesome, and I started to think about you. Next thing I knew, I was in a cab.
You aren't the craziest dame.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do with you?
Well, if you're stumped for an idea, maybe I can give you one. Come here, darling.
You know, maybe you've got something there. Let's try that again.
Yeah, go on,
What?
Jackie. Don't let me stop you.
Paul.
Hello, Doris. Why don't you introduce me to your friend?
Listen, Conrad.
Oh. You won't have to bother, darling. Obviously, he knows me. Guess that gives you the advantage.
Mhm.
You see, Jackie, I didn't find out about you until this afternoon.
Really?
Uh-huh. Doris, suppose you leave us alone for a while so we can get better acquainted.
No.
Go on, darling. I'll see you later.
No, I'm not going. You think I'm afraid of you, Paul? Well, I'm not. I'm glad you found out about us. I'm crazy about Jackie.
Crazier than you were about O'Neill or Burton or Wilson? And what was that fellow's name in Springfield?
Shut up.
I just want to make sure that this is different.
Well, it is.
I'm impressed. All right, clear out.
No.
I'm warning you, baby.
I'll call you later, Jackie.
Did you hear that, Jackie? She's going to call you later.
Look, Conrad, don't try and push me around. It's never been done successfully.
There's a first time for everything, isn't there?
Why don't you stop playing the outraged husband? You know your wife.
Careful, friend. You're speaking of the woman I love. And she loves you, too. You mustn't forget that.
Why, you...
She's crazy about you, Jackie. I don't know what you got, but it's a cinch you aren't going to have it long.
Yes, sir, Hey, what happened to you, Mr. Shaman?
None of your business.
Yeah, but look at your face. Did you have an accident or
I
something?
said none of your business. You know a boy named Daniel Seymour?
Yeah?
Is he here now?
Well, look, Mr. Shaman, like you say, it's none of my business.
Like I said. Now, where is he?
In the corner booth.
Send a bottle over to the table. You.
Huh?
You're Daniel Seymour?
Uh-huh.
You mind if I join you?
So happens I do.
Oh, you don't understand,
No,
Seymour.
you don't understand, mister. I'm in no mood for company. Know what I mean?
My name is Jackie Sherman.
That doesn't change my mood.
I'm a friend of Sonny Wilson.
So?
So he thought you might be receptive to a business proposition.
Ah. Well, if it's business, that's different. Sit down.
Thanks.
Yeah?
Seymour, how'd you like to make yourself $500?
It's a pretty ridiculous question, Jackie.
Well, all you gotta do is take care of someone for me.
And what might this someone's name be?
Paul Conrad.
Oh, is Conrad the boy who roughed... Pardon, I shouldn't even ask. This wouldn't be the same Conrad who owns the Club 59 with Jerome Barney.
Does that make a difference?
Certainly. Conrad and Barney are big operators, and a kid like myself don't bat in their league. Unless there's a big incentive. Know what I mean?
All right, what do you want?
Another 500.
Fair enough.
You know, Jackie, I like a guy who don't quibble over a couple of pennies. Let me tell you, fella, you'll be happy with the service. Know what I mean?
Come in.
Hello, Conrad.
What brings you here, Barney?
I just thought I'd drop by to see how you and Doris were getting along.
Just peachy.
You couldn't expect me to know. You haven't been down at the club in quite a while.
And I've had other problems on my mind.
You got room for another? We're short.
What do you mean, we're short?
I just finished going over the books with Harold Plant. He tells me there's close to $50,000 that he can't account for.
Is what?
Well, I didn't mean to upset you, Conrad. Still, I can't blame you. 50 grand ain't peanuts.
What happened to it, Barney?
I was hoping you could tell me.
Well, let me get this straight. You think... just a second. Don't go away, Barney. I'll be right back.
Take all the time you need, Conrad. I'll be here.
Yeah, what the devil?
Yeah?
Have I the pleasure of addressing the amazing Mr. Malone?
Don't tell me. It can't be Lieutenant Brooks.
Can't it?
I know I'm asking the impossible, Lieutenant, but if you had a mind, what would be on it?
You know, that layoff did you good. Before your vacation, I didn't think your jokes could get any worse, but you fooled me.
You're wasting your time in Homicide, Brooks. Have you ever considered radio?
You like my delivery?
I think it's the greatest thing since the U.S. mail. What's up?
Ever hear of Paul Conrad?
What about him?
Got himself knocked off at 5:30 tonight.
What's that got to do with me?
Well, silly fools that we are, we're holding his partner for the murder.
Jerome Barney?
Uh-huh.
You're crazy.
Oh, I bet you tell that to all the cops.
Barney couldn't have killed him.
You didn't even know Conrad was dead. You already got it figured out Barney isn't the killer.
That's right.
That's my boy who said that. Unfortunately. All right, Malone, we haven't been amazed in months. Come on down here and get to work.
You are listening to the amazing Mr. Malone. Today, more than ever before, Americans must be made to realize that freedom and the rights of the common man are a precious heritage. History has proved that people start to lose their freedom the moment they think it is forever secure. That is why we must all work at keeping our American heritage of freedom. For freedom is everybody's job. Many nations of the world today are standing at the crossroads between free government and dictatorship. But there are those who still aspire to political, economic, and religious freedom, and they look to America as an example. Well, it goes without saying that what Americans do during the troubled months ahead can greatly influence the decision that the war-exhausted peoples will make. To win against the totalitarian idea, Americans must become more aware of their citizenship. As a good citizen, remember your American heritage and work to defend your individual liberties. Do this by taking a more actual part in the affairs of your community and in fulfilling at all times the duties of American citizenship. And now, back to the amazing Mr. Malone.
Well, that's life for you. 1 minute you got it, and the next you haven't, as Mr. Conrad learned to his sorrow. And 2 hours after the police picked up Jerome Barney for teaching him the lesson, I was down at headquarters where I was greeted by the team that panicked the policeman's ball in 1922, and they were still using the same material.
Hey, Sussman, look who's here.
Do I have to, Lieutenant?
Oh, now come, Sussman. Let's have a little respect for the gentleman. This is, you should excuse the expression, John J. Malone.
Attorney and counselor at law.
Oh, that's a great routine you got there, fellas. Do you do a repeat performance for the coast? Where's Barney?
Oh, well, Malone, seeing that he's one of your clients, we gave him the best seat in the house. Of course, it doesn't compare with the one he's going to get at Joliet.
Whatever happened to all the straight men on the force?
We traded him to the straight cleaning department.
That's enough out of you, Sussman.
Only he can make the jokes.
Professional jealousy, Hank.
Come on, open him up. Malone?
How are you, Barney?
Fine. How soon can you get me out of here?
What's the matter, Mr. Barney? Haven't we made you feel at home?
All right, Brooks, knock off already. What have you got on him anyway?
Where do you want me to start?
At the top of the page.
Okay, number 1, he was spotted leaving Conrad's apartment right after the murder. Number 2, the gun was in his pocket.
Why did you do that, Barney?
Because my fingerprints are on it.
They what?
Well, I lost my head, and I picked it up when I saw Conrad was dead.
Oh, that's a jolly one.
Come on, Sidney. Fool us both and try to use your head. Where's his motive for killing Conrad?
Where's his motive?
Yeah.
Conrad was tapping the till down at the club. The books were short to the tune of almost $50,000.
Is that right, Barney?
Well, sure, but if I killed Conrad, how was I going to get my money back?
Because you boys had a partnership insurance policy on the lives of each other.
You know, I forgot about that.
Well, it's a pleasure to remind you. But what do you say, Mr. Malone?
I wish I could think of a smart exit line.
Oh, you leaving already, Counselor?
Yeah.
Why, you haven't been at all amazing.
Well, that makes us even because you haven't been at all amusing. I'll see you girls.
Just a second.
Hello, Mrs. Conrad.
Yes?
I wonder if you could spare me a few minutes of your valuable time.
I'm afraid I'm busy.
Oh, you can't be that busy. My name's Hogan.
Hogan?
Larry Hogan. I'm a detective.
Oh. Well, won't you come in?
Thanks. Hey, it's quite an establishment you got here, Mrs. Conrad.
Can I offer you anything?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Of course, I told Lieutenant Brooks.
Oh, I guess there's been a slight misunderstanding. I'm not with the police.
But you just said...
Yeah, I know. I meant I was a private detective. Hey, is that bar just for show? Or is
Get
it
out.
Oh, no. Let's not be hasty, Mrs. Conrad. I know you're upset about your husband, but then he was plenty upset about you.
What's that supposed to mean, Hogan?
Just what it sounded like. I was doing a little research for him. Get me?
No.
Well, a couple of months ago, he dropped by my office and asked me to do some checking on you.
Well?
Well, if I say so myself, I'm pretty good. Didn't take me long to find out about you and Jackie Sherman. The next time you do something like that, honey, you want to use a little discretion.
I think I've heard enough.
Good. Now, let's say, suppose I drop around, let's say, every Wednesday morning.
What for?
Well, to pick up my check. Though, actually, I prefer cash.
You're wasting your time, Hogan. I don't intend to be blackmailed.
Oh, now, baby, who said it was blackmail? You're just buying my services.
I don't need them.
You're making a serious mistake, Mrs. Conrad.
Are you threatening me?
Why, I wouldn't dream of it. Still, I got something to sell, and if you don't want to buy, I'll bet I can find myself another customer.
Yeah?
I'd like to talk to John J. Malone, please.
You are now.
Well, you don't know me, Mr. Malone, but my name is Larry Hogan.
Who?
Larry Hogan. I'm a private eye.
A private eye. You've been seeing too many Bogart pictures. I bet you even own a trench coat.
Look, Mr. Malone, I called to do you a favor.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
You're representing Jerome Barney in the Conrad killing, ain't you?
Well,
Well, what would it be worth to your client if I can clear him?
what do you want?
Well, I'm no pig, you understand. How does $500 suit you?
It suits me fine.
Well, the party for you to see is Mrs. Conrad. Her hubby hired me to keep tabs on her.
Who was she holding hands with?
A boy named Jackie Sherman.
Jackie Sherman.
Yeah, he lives at the Brighton.
Well, thanks a lot, Hogan. I'm forever in your debt.
Hey, wait a minute, Malone. What about my dough?
Hey, what dough?
You promised me 5 bills.
No, I didn't. I said 500 would suit me fine, and it would. I haven't made a penny since I came back from my vacation, so if you'll excuse me, Hogan, I got to get down to cases.
Yes,
Mrs. Conrad,
that's right.
you don't know me.
And what makes you think I'd like to?
I've got references.
What about samples?
Well, that can be arranged, too.
Well,
In public.
in that case, you better come in.
Thanks.
What did you say your name was?
I didn't. But it's Malone. John J. Malone.
Offer you a drink?
You can try.
What'll you have?
Anything you've got.
You're taking quite a chance.
Well, I believe in living dangerously.
That's a reporter for you.
Pardon?
Well, you are a reporter, aren't you?
How could you tell?
Well, there's a certain something about all you newspaper men.
Does it show?
Oh, definitely.
Well, I guess there's no fooling you. You know a Larry Hogan?
No. Am I missing something?
Well, if you are, I'll make up for it.
Here's your drink.
Thanks.
Good?
I don't know when I've had better. Now, I tell you what I had in mind, Mrs. Conrad.
The name's Doris.
Well, I didn't want to presume. How would you like to do a personal series on the murder of your husband?
Oh, what do you mean, a personal series?
Oh, what it was like to be married to a big shot.
I'm afraid I couldn't.
Why not?
I never learned how to write. Now, maybe if I had someone to collaborate with,
That's some idea.
You'll be willing?
No. But maybe Jackie Sherman would.
What did you say?
Well, let's face it, Lover, you and Jackie are a natural. He probably knows more about this case than anyone else. How long have you two known each other?
Get out.
Out? I haven't even finished my drink.
You're going to get out of here.
Now, Doris, you wouldn't throw a glass at me. Hey, yeah, I guess you would.
Get out.
Now, don't be angry just because you missed. It's hard to hit a moving target. It's lucky your husband didn't present that problem. Don't say it. It's been grand, Lover. Let's do it again real soon.
One, two, one.
Hello?
Is that you, Jackie?
Yeah?
Darling, you got to come over here.
You out of your mind, Doris?
You don't understand. A newspaper man named John J. Malone was just over here.
Who?
John J. Malone.
He's no newspaper man. He's a lawyer.
But he just told
He's
me...
representing Barney.
Well, that's even worse.
What did you tell him?
I didn't tell him anything. He knew about us.
Oh, how?
Hogan must have told him. Jackie, I got to see you.
Don't be any stupider than you have to be, Doris.
Well, I can't go on like this.
Look, will you try and get this through your head, baby? We're through. Washed up. Finished.
Oh, no, we're not.
I say we are.
And what about me?
You don't have to worry. According to the World Almanac, there are a million other men in Chicago.
How dare you say that?
It's the truth, isn't it?
All right, Mr. Sherman. I can see you're looking for trouble. Maybe I know just the girl to accommodate you.
Hello, Seymour. Remember me?
Well, the bandages look familiar. Squat.
I was very surprised to hear you were still in town.
Why? We expect me to leave, Jackie? I got nothing to hide.
I disagree with you.
Never seen it to fail. Look, Jackie boy, up to this point, my association with you has been very pleasant. You know why? Because you didn't tell me how to run my business. Know what I mean?
Well, don't you think with Conrad dead that you...
Conrad? Never heard of him.
Now, look, Seymour, you... All right, look. I'm willing to pay you $500 more to get out of town.
Well, if you're going to put it on that basis, Jackie boy, I'd be an ingrate to refuse. Know what I mean?
I don't.
You... What?
That's what I hate about this place. They never keep out the riffraff. What are you doing here, Malone?
You probably won't believe this, Seymour.
Probably not.
I had no idea you were here. I was following your friend. Imagine my surprise.
Beat it, Malone.
Say, what's the trouble with me today? Nobody seems to want me around.
Maybe you ought to start reading the ads.
That's a thought. And I got one, too. What do you suppose Lieutenant Brooks is going to say when I tell him that Mrs. Conrad's boyfriend has been consorting with a hired killer?
Is that what you think I am, Malone?
Uh-huh.
Well, you're wrong. I never harmed a soul in my life. But you keep talking like that, and I might surprise myself. Know what I mean?
Well, what are you stalling for, Sussman? King me.
King you? Wait a minute, Lieutenant. How'd that checker get there?
It was in that box all along.
Funny, I didn't see it.
Are you implying that I would cheat?
No, he wouldn't do that, Sussman. He's just dishonest.
Well, if it isn't the amazing Mr. Malone. What do you hear from Perry Mason?
Why don't you give up, Brooks? I don't think you boys will ever replace the Keystone cops. What did you find out?
Find out about what?
Conrad's murder.
Oh, haven't you heard, Mr. Malone? We've got the killer under lock and key. It's a fellow named Jerome Barney, who by an odd coincidence happens to be your client.
You mean you haven't done any more work on the case?
Well, it seemed like such a waste of effort with you on the job. Shall we get back to our game, Sussman?
Listen, you comics, you know darn well that Barney didn't kill Conrad.
Well, enlighten us, Counselor. Where did we make our mistake?
Mrs. Conrad was holding hands with a boy named Jackie Sherman.
Do tell.
20 minutes ago, Mr. Sherman met with a fellow named Daniel Seymour, and you know what Dan Seymour does for a living.
Yeah, I have my suspicions.
Well, what deduction do you Hawkshaws draw from that?
Now, you listen to me, Malone. As strange as it may seem, we occasionally get an idea once in a while.
Yeah.
Now, it's your theory that Seymour gunned Conrad on behalf of Jackie Sherman.
Yes.
Well, there's only one thing wrong with that. When Conrad was killed, Mr. Seymour was being questioned by the police 15 miles away.
He what?
So I guess you'll have to find yourself another suspect. It's your move, Mr. Malone.
You are listening to the amazing Mr. Malone. The United States Forestry Service has declared a state of emergency. Drought conditions across the nation have increased the danger of forest fires. Recently, 17 forest fire fighters lost their lives. Due to these unprecedented drought conditions, destructive forest fires are causing widespread damage in the West, the Rocky Mountains, New York, and in New England. The danger of similar disastrous fires elsewhere is rapidly increasing. The only obvious reason that 90% of forest fires are started is carelessness on the part of the average American. All persons entering wooded or forest areas, or even driving through in automobiles, are urged to exercise extreme care when smoking or using fire. Learn by heart these simple rules. Crush out cigar, cigarette, and pipe ashes. Break matches in two after using. Drown all campfires, then stir and drown again. And find out the law before starting any fire outdoors. Remember, 9 out of 10 forest fires are caused by people. You can help prevent them. And now, back to the amazing Mr. Malone.
I wonder if Professor Einstein had as much trouble with his theory as I had with mine. Here I had it worked out so beautifully that Dan Seymour had killed Conrad at the behest of Jackie Sherman, and according to Lieutenant Brooks, there was only one slight flaw. It never happened that way.
Say, Malone.
Huh?
Your mouth's still open.
Now, listen, Lieutenant, are you sure that Seymour couldn't have killed Conrad?
Positive.
How do you know?
Because at the time of the murder, we were having a little tete-a-tete. I got a phone call yesterday afternoon that Mr. Seymour had secured himself an assignment and a little interview might be in order.
Who was your tipster?
My friend didn't care to leave his name.
But the point is...
The point is that at the very moment Conrad got himself gunned, I was looking into Seymour's beautiful brown eyes.
Well, how about Mrs. Conrad?
Yeah, hey, how about her?
I mean, why couldn't she have killed her husband?
No reason, except she didn't. At 5:30, she was having cocktails in Evanston. Any further nominations?
Hogan.
Who?
Did you ever hear of a private detective named Larry Hogan?
Yeah, several times.
Well, he was the one who gave me Mrs. Conrad and Jackie Sherman.
Well, that was sweet of him.
Maybe Hogan killed Conrad.
Oh, Malone, don't you think you're reaching a little?
Well, why not?
Where's his motive?
He did some work for Conrad.
By you, that's a motive?
Suppose Conrad refused to pay him. Suppose they had a... Wait a minute, Lieutenant. I think I see it all now.
You do?
Yeah. Put your head on. We got work to do.
Hello, Jackie.
Doris, I thought I told you on the
Oh,
phone
now,
that...
sweetheart, you know you didn't mean that. You couldn't possibly.
Couldn't I?
No. You're crazy about me, and I'm crazy about you.
You're crazy, period.
You're wasting your time, Jackie. You can't make me angry. I know how much you care. But look what you did for me.
What did I do for you, Doris?
You know.
Yeah, but we don't. So suppose
What?
you enlighten us, Mrs. Conrad.
How did you get in here?
Oh, I suppose we should have knocked, Brooks.
Yeah, but they probably wouldn't have paid any attention.
All right, Malone, what do you want?
The party who killed Paul Conrad.
I thought you were a lawyer.
That's a common mistake. Actually, Jackie, I'm very bad in a courtroom, so I find it much easier if we never go to trial. All right, Lieutenant. Like they say in the police manual, do your duty.
All right. And Mrs. Conrad, by the power invested in me,
No, Lieutenant, not her. Him.
What does that mean?
You killed Conrad.
Are you nuts?
Now, there's no reason to be sore, Jackie. You went to a great deal of trouble to work out this plot. I'm just seeing to it that you get the proper billing.
Say, Malone,
Huh?
if it's not asking too much, would you mind drawing me a diagram?
Oh, I thought the doctor told you to lay off those stupid pills.
Well, Malone, we can't all be as smart as you. After all, if I knew all the answers, I'd be doing guest shots on gangbusters.
Well, it had to be Jackie Sherman.
Had to be. Now, why?
Couldn't be anyone else.
Where was his motive? Don't tell me he was in love with Doris.
Of course not, but you saw the shellacking Conrad gave him. Well, Jackie wasn't the kind to take it laying down.
No, that still doesn't prove anything.
Well, where do you think your tip came from to pick up Seymour?
Jackie?
Whom else?
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Sure it does. Jackie knew his name was bound to pop up in this case. He was the most obvious suspect.
So he hires a killer and then tips us off about it?
Exactly.
Oh, that's Miss Sugar.
It's not crazy at all. Jackie had a great knowledge of psychology. He banked on us figuring the way we did. It didn't seem possible that having hired a gunman, he'd do the job himself, which is just what he did. Why do you think I had no trouble following him to Seymour? He led me there, deliberately.
Then I can't get over it. Did you realize how unusual this case was?
You mean I didn't wind up with a beautiful blonde?
No, I've seen that happen before.
Oh, what then?
Well, I've been running around with you, man and boy, almost 3 years, and this is the first time I can remember where you didn't get your head parted in the middle with a lethal weapon.
Say, that's right.
Yeah, let's just hope it doesn't establish a dangerous precedent. Good night, Malone.
Ever hear the story of the gangster who was haunted by ambition? He was going to be public enemy number one if it killed him. You gotta give the boy credit, he made it. I'll tell you all about it next week, so why not pick me up in my office at the same time? I'll be waiting for you. Good night.
Gene Raymond was starred as John J. Malone. Our program was written by Gene Wang and directed by William P. Rousseau. Music by Basil Adlam. The Amazing Mr. Malone is produced by Bernard L. Schubert. The events and characters depicted in this story were entirely fictional. Any resemblance to actual places of people living or dead is entirely coincidental. This is George Fenneman inviting you to be with us next week. The Amazing Mr. Malone has come to you from Hollywood.
The Adventures of Mr. and Mrs. North, starring Alice Frost and Joseph Curtin, and brought to you by
Woodbury, 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 for the skin you love to touch.
Jerry and Pamela North often drive Bill Wygand to the verge of insanity. However, for all their bewildering antics, they often help him, too. And at times he even goes so far as to ask them for advice. Tonight is such a time, because he's faced with a dizzy situation. Now, as Bill seats himself in the North's living room, Jerry says to him,
All right, Bill. Now, what's this great problem that's puzzling you?
It's a case that I'm working on.
I know. Somebody crept to the window and shot him in the middle of his dinner.
What?
Yes, I read about it in the paper. He was dining alone.
Who was?
Walter Middleton, of course, dear. Mrs. Middleton's been dead for years, and the son and daughter were out, so he was alone. The butler heard the shot and ran into the dining room, but Mr. Middleton was already dead. It's been on all the front pages.
Oh, I only read the funnies.
He was rich as anything, so there's the motive. Cigarette, Bill?
No, thanks.
The son and daughter are the most obvious suspects, so that lets them out. How about some candy, Bill?
No, not just now. Why does it let them out?
That's too obvious. Fruit?
No, thanks.
Nuts?
Yeah, I'm beginning to think so.
Bill, is this Middleton case what you wanted to ask us about?
Yeah, it has a screwy angle. I thought it would be just up the North Alley. You see, we have 2 confessions.
You mean 2 people have confessed to the same murder?
That's right, and each claims he worked alone.
Well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's what I said. And since sense doesn't work in this case, I thought intuition might. How about it, Pam?
I have to have something to go on. Who are these people who confessed, Bill? Not the son and daughter?
No, they're a couple of friends of the Middletons, Larry Chapman and George Warwood.
Oh, can I meet them?
Sure, we're holding them at headquarters.
Well, let's go.
All right.
I wonder what's in back of it, Jerry.
I know. They heard confessions good for the soul.
The dining room window was open, so I just pointed the gun through it and fired.
That's impossible, Larry.
Why?
Because I did.
Here we go again.
Look, Lieutenant, doesn't priority count around here? I confessed first.
But you're lying.
May I ask a question?
Go right to it, then.
Why did you gentlemen kill Mr. Middleton?
Well, it's just that
it's like this.
Well,
that is...
what I was going to say is that...
Hold it. Now, you, Warwick, why did you shoot Middleton?
Well, sir,
I owed him some money, and I couldn't pay him, so I killed him.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
You mean I put them in your mouth? You never even thought of it.
I don't care what you say. I don't care what anyone says. I killed Walter Middleton. I hope to die if I didn't.
It's the other way around, George.
This isn't getting us anywhere.
Oh, why don't we toss a coin? Winner gets the electric chair.
Wait a minute, Jerry. Now, look. If either of you shot Mr. Middleton, you had to have a gun. All right. Tell us where the gun is, and we'll see if it matches the bullet.
I threw the gun away.
So did I. I mean, that's what I did. I demand you hold me for murder.
You ought to hold him for plagiarism instead.
Where did you throw away the gun?
Who, me?
Either of you, both of you.
I don't remember.
I wrapped the gun in some old newspaper and threw it in some bushes.
What bushes? Where?
That's what I don't remember.
Well, Pam, you're doing fine. Have any hunches yet?
I have a hunch they're both lying.
That's no hunch. It's a logical conclusion based on observation of the facts.
You must believe me. I tell you, I killed Walter Middleton.
With your little hatchet, yeah, we know.
Now, look. Don't either of you fellas want to change your stories?
No. I killed Walter Middleton.
He didn't. I did.
Okay.
Here comes the policeman.
Oh, yes, he has David Middleton with him.
Hello, Lieutenant Wygant.
Hello.
Oh, hello, Mr. and Mrs. North.
Hello.
Lieutenant, I don't know how you're going to like this. Maybe it's good and maybe it ain't.
All right, what's up?
Well, you sent me to question young Middleton here and check up on his whereabouts on the night of the murder, so I did.
Yes?
Well, what do you think he tells me? He says he killed his father.
Oh, that's swell. He what?
Yeah. He wants to confess.
Bill, it looks like you've hit the jackpot.
Well, I took your advice, Pam, and released our 3 murderers.
But what if it turns out that one of them's telling the truth?
Yeah, we can always pick them up again. We certainly have nothing on either one of them as yet.
Besides, if one of them is guilty, this is a better way to trap him. Give him enough rope.
But, darling, you know what some people do with rope.
What?
Skip.
Oh, we'll have to work fast before he has a chance.
Do you have any plans?
I'd like to talk to Helen Middleton. Maybe she can tell us something.
Okay. But if she tells us that she's the one who killed her father, there'll be a second murder. And I'll commit it.
After all, Larry and George are both very dear friends of mine, and David is my brother. You can't expect me to say anything against them.
But if one of them killed your father...
Oh, none of them did. I'm sure.
Why?
Well, I just know it.
Well, then, perhaps you can tell us something to help clear them. They're all under suspicion.
But I don't know what to say. told the police all I know, and I've tried to answer your questions.
But unfortunately, it hasn't helped us much.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You can't think of any reason why they should all confess?
No.
All right. Well, we won't keep you any longer, Miss Middleton.
Thank you. I hope you'll pardon me if I don't show you out, but I'm so terribly tired, and I don't want to go downstairs again.
Oh, that's quite all right. Goodbye.
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 Well, Pam, what do you think?
You forget, Jerry, I'm not supposed to think. I'm supposed to feel. You know, intuition.
Well, then, what do you feel?
Bewildered. I don't understand. Oh!
I'm sorry, madam. I didn't mean to alarm you.
You ought to give more warning when you pop out of nowhere.
Not nowhere, madam. I was concealed in this archway.
Eavesdropping on our conversation with Miss Middleton, huh?
If you wish to call it that, I call it detecting.
Are you a detective?
Unofficially, like yourselves. Officially, I'm the Middleton's butler.
Oh. Oh, you're the one who discovered the body.
Yes, madam.
Perhaps you can tell us something.
I can tell you a great deal. I'm a profound student of crime. Oh, fascinating subject.
Yes.
I'll tell you this. You're on the right track. It's not suicide. It's murder.
Well, of course it is. Nobody suggested there wasn't.
After all, there was no gun near the body.
How do you know?
Well,
How do you know I didn't find a gun and hide it to make it look like murder?
But there's no earthly reason why you should.
Jumping to conclusions. First rule of a good detective. Never jump to conclusions.
But you just said yourself that it was murder.
True. As a matter of fact, there was no gun. But you shouldn't take my word for it. Why are you looking at me like that? Perhaps you think I killed Mr. Middleton. Good. Very good. Never overlook anything. First rule of a good detective.
I thought you just said that the first rule was never...
Yes, very good. However, you're wrong. I couldn't have done it.
Why?
The butler never does it. Not anymore. That went out with the bustle. But I'll give you a clue if you want it.
What?
In the back of the house. A little bungalow. Young David Middleton's studio.
What about it?
No one is allowed in it but the young master himself. The windows are all blacked out. My wife does the cleaning here in the main house, but even she's not allowed in there. Nobody is. Doesn't that strike you as significant?
Certainly does.
What mysteries does that studio contain? One time I tried to find out, but young David caught me. He was very angry.
Haven't you any idea what he keeps there?
No, but I'm sure it must be important. If you want the key to the mystery, find out the secret of the studio.
Okay, thanks for telling us. Come on, Pam.
All right. Goodbye, Mr. Butler.
Goodbye.
Well, Jerry, let's go and see if we can get in the studio.
Oh, don't be silly, Pam. That butler's slap happy.
But there might be something to that story of the studio.
Nonsense.
But suppose there is, Jerry. We shouldn't overlook anything.
First rule of a good detective.
I mean it.
Well, we'll tell Bill if he wants to investigate, he can.
I think we ought to.
But, Pam...
We're right here.
I don't think we should.
Oh, Jerry, please.
No.
Please.
No.
That must be it in the clump of trees. Come on, Jerry. Careful, nobody sees us.
You know, if young Middleton catches us at this, he'd be within his legal rights if he shot us.
Oh, I can't see that it would hurt any more than if it were illegal. I mean, if you were shot, you wouldn't care, would you, whether it was legal or not, especially if you were dead. Oh, let's not let him catch us, huh?
You're right. Let's not. Be careful. This moonlight's pretty bright. Stay close to the bushes.
All right.
I don't know why I let you talk me into things like this.
Because you're sweet.
I think it's your baby blue eyes. They look so sad when you can't have your way. Like a calf's. Well, here we are.
Calf's eyes are brown.
Somehow that seems irrelevant. Well, now that we're here, what do we do?
Let's see if we can find some way to get in. Oh, gollies, it seems kind of spooky, doesn't it? It's all dark.
Yeah.
What's the matter?
Oh, wait a minute. Thought I heard something. I guess I was wrong. Well, now, what do you want to do?
I think I'll just try the door. Oh, Jerry! Jerry, laugh. I've been shot.
You're all wet.
I'm not. I've been shot. Oh, I am, aren't I? I thought it was blood.
No, Dolly. You just walked into a trap. A bucket of water fell on your head.
I'm soaked to the skin.
What's going on here?
Oh, hello, Middleton. My wife decided to take a shower.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. North. I hope you're all right.
I guess so. Only I'm cold.
Well, come on back to the house and you can warm up. I'm sorry about this, but I don't like people to go near my studio.
Yeah, so we found out. You know, that's quite an effective booby trap you have there, young fellow. Isn't it, Pam? I beg your pardon?
Shoot. Jerry, stop laughing and come to bed.
I can't help it, Pam, when I think of the way you looked. Like a drowned cat.
Before I was a calf.
Well, you will go snooping into other people's business.
Well, Bill asked us to help him.
I'm afraid you weren't much help.
I guess not. You know, Jerry, in spite of it all, I like that David Middleton.
Yeah, he seems to be a nice kid.
I would like to know what he's got in that studio.
Maybe he's hoarding sugar.
Oh, now what?
I'll answer it, dear. Hello. Yes?
This is George Warwick.
Oh, yes.
I've been trying to get hold of Lieutenant Wygant. Do you know where he is?
No, but I think I can find him for you.
Good. If you and he come out to my house right away, I'll show you something very important.
What is it?
I've just discovered a very important clue. Now I know who killed Mr. Middleton.
Well, I thought you said you killed him.
I'll explain everything. How soon can you get here?
I don't know. As soon as I find Bill.
All right, I'll be waiting. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Who is it, Jerry?
George Warwick. You better put your clothes on again, darling. One of our murderers has something to tell us. And this time, it's not a confession.
Well, this is it.
I wonder what he wants to show us.
Well, it better be good. I don't like coming out in the middle of the night for nothing.
I doubt that this will be as good as he promised. Somehow I don't trust
Wait
that.
a minute, Bill.
What is it, Pam?
I think there's somebody standing by the corner of the house.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, boy, he's shooting at us.
Hey!
Jerry!
And now back to Mr. and Mrs. North. The Norths and Wygand were approaching George Warwick's house when someone began shooting at them.
Golly, he's shooting at us.
Duck, hey!
Jerry!
There he goes. He's running back of the house. You got your gun, Jerry?
Yeah.
Good. Go around the other side. I'll go this way.
Okay.
See anything, Jerry?
Pam, you shouldn't have followed me.
Well, I wasn't going to stay back there alone.
Well, all right.
There's someone by the back door.
Yeah, back, Pam. Who's there?
Hello, that's you, Jerry.
Bill. Yeah.
See anyone, Jerry?
No.
No, neither did I.
What do we do now?
Well, I guess we'd better go the other...
What's that?
Someone's calling for help.
It's coming from inside the house. Come on. Here's the door. It's locked. I have to break the glass. Then I can reach in, turn the knob. Look out.
Okay.
There we are.
The call's coming from upstairs.
Right, let's go.
I can't see anything.
Now, wait, I'm feeling for the light switch. Oh, here it is.
Oh, that's better.
Now, come on. Hello, where are you?
In here.
Sounded like that room there.
Right. Hello in there. The door's locked.
Break it in.
Okay, I'll shoot off the lock. Stand back, Jerry. There we are. Hey, where are you?
Over here, behind the bed.
What? Oh, it's Warwick.
His hands and feet tied. What happened, fella?
Larry knocked me down, tied my hands and feet, and ran out.
Larry Chapman, eh?
Yes.
He wore a mask, but I recognized him anyway.
He must be the one who shot at us.
Probably. I heard the shots. I wondered what was happening.
Can you roll over a little so I can get to this other nut?
Yeah.
That's it. I'll have you loose in a second.
What did Chapman want, Warwick?
Well, he must have been snooping around and heard me phone you. He's probably stolen the clue.
What clue?
The gun that killed Walter Middleton.
You mean you found the gun?
That's right.
Well, there you are, all untied.
Thanks.
Now, what about this gun?
I had it locked in my desk downstairs. Perhaps he didn't find it. Come on, we'll see.
Okay.
You see, on the night of the murder, I saw Larry throw a package wrapped in newspaper in some bushes. I didn't think anything of it until today, when he mentioned wrapping the pistol in newspaper and throwing it in the bushes.
And you went back to the same spot tonight and the gun was still there?
Yes. I went back as soon as you released me. Then I went to see Helen.
Why?
I had to be sure she wasn't involved. As soon as I found out she had a perfect alibi, I phoned the North.
Oh, then you confessed before just to shield Miss Middleton.
That's right, Mrs. North.
But it wasn't necessary. Chapman had already confessed.
I know, but he was just making a play for her benefit. He's cut in enough already. Until he came along, I thought my chances with her were pretty good. Now I'm not so sure. Well, here we are. In just a second, I'll open the desk. Ah, it's still here.
Yeah, so it is. Let me see it.
Here.
Well, apparently that isn't what Chapman was after then. Maybe he just wanted a chance to shoot us.
Why would he want to kill us, Jerry?
I don't know.
Well, I can't explain it. All I know is that he knocked me down, tied me up, and then I heard him run out the door. And the next thing I knew, there was shooting.
Say, wait a minute. Let's see that.
What, the gun?
No, the paper it's wrapped in.
What is it, Jerry?
Warwick, you say you saw Chapman throw this package in the bushes on the night of the murder.
That's right.
That's very strange.
Why?
Well, the murder took place a couple of days ago. But this newspaper the gun's wrapped in is today's paper.
What? Why, I don't understand.
I think I'm beginning to.
Well, there's some mistake.
I'll say there is, and you've made it.
Oh, no. You can't think that I...
Oh, can't we, though? How about that other story of yours?
Which story?
About Chapman attacking you and tying you up.
It's true, he did.
Oh, he did, huh? And then he ran out the door.
That's right.
How do you explain the fact that when we reached the door to your room, it was locked from the inside?
I don't know.
According to your story, you couldn't have locked it because you were tied up. Chapman went out through it.
Well, it must have... Oh, I don't know.
Jerry, look out. He's grabbing the gun.
Stop him, Bill.
No, you don't. I've got the gun now. Stand back, all of you. That's it.
Now, look here, Warwick. You
don't
can't
move.
get away.
I'm getting out of here.
He's getting away.
Yes, darling. I'm afraid he is.
And you're sure you haven't any idea where he might go to hide out, Miss Middleton?
No, I haven't.
All right, thank you. We'll run along now. I'm sorry we had to disturb you in the middle of the night like this.
That's all right.
Good night.
Good night.
Well, no luck here. We'll have to try something else.
You know, Bill, I can't help wondering.
About what?
If he really was guilty, why did he confess?
Oh, that was clever. By seeming to protect Miss Middleton, he threw suspicion off himself.
Of course, that's it. Bill, Jerry, I just thought of something.
You think you know where he is?
I think I know where... Wait a minute.
What is it?
Look, there's a light under the door in David Middleton's studio. Come on.
Why? You don't think Warwick's there, do you?
No, but I've just got to find out what's in there.
You and your curiosity. You know what I got you before.
Oh, I'll watch out, Jerry. I know what to look for this time.
Pam, we've got a murderer to track down.
Oh, you men. Don't you have any curiosity? Besides, it won't take any time. Come on.
All right, let's go, Bill. There'll be no living with her until she's satisfied.
Well, all right.
Oh, you're darlings, both of you.
We're saps.
Yep. I don't know why I agreed. I don't have to live with her.
Shh, Bill. We're getting close.
Too bad you forgot your bathing suit.
Shh. I won't touch anything this time, Jerry. I'll just stoop down and see if I can see through the keyhole.
See anything?
Yes. He's in there.
Young Middleton?
Uh-huh.
What's he doing?
Sewing.
Sewing?
Yes.
What's the idea?
I lost my balance.
Hey!
Oh, I'm sorry. I lost my balance. I fell against the door, and I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to... I didn't mean... I fell.
Doggone it, I told you to keep away from here. Oh, Mr. North, too, and the lieutenant. What do you want?
I wanted to be able to live with my wife.
Huh?
Yes, she just had to see what you have in here.
Well, now you see. I hope you're satisfied.
Dolls?
Yes, I make them. Silly, isn't it?
I don't think so.
I just like to make dolls. Sort of a hobby.
There's no law against it, is there?
No, not that I've heard.
I know. I ought to fool around with shortwave radio or electric motors or something. But I'd rather make dolls. Well, what are you waiting for? Why don't you laugh?
I don't feel like it.
Look, son. Is this where you were the night of the murder?
Yes. That's why I confessed. So you'd all stop asking questions about where I was. I didn't want to have to tell about it. I was safe enough. 2 confessions before mine, and I could always tell the truth if I had to. But I hoped I wouldn't have to.
Oh, you shouldn't feel so ashamed, David. These dolls are beautiful. Why, you're an artist. Look, Jerry, all kinds of characters.
Yeah, they're absolutely perfect.
Look, every little detail exact. Some of these dolls are so tiny, and others are almost life-size.
Thanks, Mrs. North. You can have one if you like.
Oh, thank you, I would. This one, this little old man with a pipe.
Okay, he's yours.
Oh, thank you, David. Jerry, look, isn't he cute? Little wrinkled-up face. Jerry, dolls.
What about them?
They give me an idea. I think I know how we can catch the murderer.
With dolls?
Yes, Jerry, with dolls.
You see, Miss Middleton, it was quite a scheme. By pretending to shield you, Warwick could throw suspicion off himself.
The very confession of murder would suggest he was innocent.
And then being found tied up right after we were shot at, it would again make him seem innocent of that, too. And the gun plant would throw the blame where he wanted it.
Clever. It's too clever.
Anybody who'd work out such an elaborate scheme wouldn't make such stupid mistakes as the date on the paper and the locked door.
Besides, he's a slitherer.
A what?
A slitherer. There are 2 kinds of liars, twisters and slitherers. Twisters figure out 3 or 4 twists ahead and lie accordingly, while slitherers just slide into whatever lie seems to fit at the moment. Mr. Warwick is a slitherer.
But how do you know?
At the jail, Mr. Chapman was always way ahead of Mr. Warwick. He confessed first, and he lied much better. He's a twister.
It was he who confessed to throw suspicion off himself. Warwick simply confessed out of jealousy at Chapman's getting all your gratitude.
Only a twister would have thought of that first confession.
And get this twist. Instead of framing a case against Warwick, he lets Warwick frame a case against him. A case that will fold up and make Warwick seem guilty.
You mean Larry is the murderer?
Well, sure.
But then why did George run away?
He saw so much evidence piling up against him, he was afraid we'd be able to pin the murder on him. Chapman's scheme was working.
And it was an elaborate scheme, too. Chapman planted the gun in today's paper and put it in the bushes.
And after tying up Warwick, he walked to the door, slammed it, and then quietly locked it. Slipped to the window and got out that way. Warwick, on the floor behind the bed, couldn't see him.
I can't believe it. Why? Why would he do all this? Kill Father and then try to put the blame on George?
Simple. With your father's death, you and your brother share the inheritance. And by framing Warwick, Chapman hoped to eliminate him and marry you for your money.
Oh, I can't believe it. I can't.
Unfortunately, it's true. We haven't told Bill yet. But as soon as he gets here, we're going to tell him
You're not going to do anything. I'm shutting you up now.
All right, Chapman, drop that pistol. I've got you covered. That's it. Okay, folks, you can come out from behind the sofa.
Helen. And Mr. and Mrs. North.
Yeah, what you shot were just dummies. Life-size dolls, which you probably can see yourself now that you take the time.
Mr. and Mrs. Proxy. Oh, poor Mrs. Proxy. You hit her right between the eyes.
Helen, you were in on this. You invited me here, left the front door open so I'd come in and overhear you.
Yes, Larry.
She didn't want to. But when we convinced her that you'd killed her father, she agreed.
Well, you can come along with me, Chapman. We didn't have any proof against you before, but we have now.
Thanks to Mr. and Mrs. Proxy. Gollies, Jerry. You know something?
What?
We're not such bad twisters ourselves, are we?
Do you think a film star has an easy life? Well, she doesn't. Making a picture is unusually hard work. She has to be up at dawn to have her makeup on and be ready in time. She works all day under blazing lights. Then there are personal appearances, for every star is busy with war work these days. And off the set as well as on, she has to look glamorous. Well, the beauty care that can keep her skin soft and radiant through all that has to be remarkably effective. And here's what Veronica Lake does, the Paramount star now appearing in So Proudly We Hail. She told us,
I take the 3-minute Woodbury Beauty Nightcap every night with Woodbury Cold Cream. The beauty results are thrilling.
well, girls, your skin may not have such hard treatment as a film star's, but if Woodbury Cold Cream can do so much for them, think what it can do for you. That's because Woodbury is much more than just cold cream. It's a complete beauty cream. Jars, 10 cents to $1.25. That's Woodbury, Woodbury, Woodbury Cold Cream. Get a jar tonight. Tune in again next Wednesday evening at the same time for another adventure of Mr. and Mrs. North. For thrills and laughs, be sure to listen, won't you? This is Ben Grauer saying good night for
Woodbury, 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 for the skin you love to touch.
This program came to you from New York. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Mystery in the Air, starring Peter Lorre, presented by Camel Cigarettes.
Yes?
You're Mr. Amos G. Hall, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Who are you?
I'm Barastro, the hypnotist and magician. They call me the marvelous Barastro.
What do you want? How did you get in my office?
I said I was a magician. I do such things.
Well, why have you come to see me?
Why? 'Cause you're a great lawyer, and I'll have need of your services soon.
Indeed.
Yes, indeed. 'Cause tonight I shall commit a murder.
Each week at this hour, Peter Lorre brings us the excitement of the great stories of the strange and unusual, of dark and compelling masterpieces culled from the four corners of world literature. Tonight, The Marvelous Barastro by Ben Hecht.
Mystery in the Air, starring Peter Lorre. Brought to you by Camel Cigarettes.
The famous criminal lawyer Amos G. Hall sits staring into the hypnotic eyes of the marvelous Barastro, who has just announced that tonight he will commit murder.
Yes, Mr. Hall, for a long time, I have dreamed only one dream, to kill this man.
Why? Who is he?
Rico Sansoni. Have you heard of him?
No, can't say that I have.
Well, he's a great magician, a great hypnotist, yes. He's clever. He's too clever. I've hunted him from country to country, from city to city, all over the world. Sometimes I've almost caught him. In London, I only missed him by only 2 hours, but tonight I shall meet him face to face.
You know where he is, then? Right now?
Yes. Rico Sansoni's here in this city, now. Tonight he opens in his first stage performance, and I'll be there, waiting for him.
Well, apart from the legalistic aspects of the case, Why do you want to murder this man?
Why? Listen closely, Mr. Hall, and perhaps you'll know a part of my hate for this fiend. Oh, it began some time ago. I was traveling with a small carnival through Eastern Europe. I cast horoscopes, I read the future, I revealed the past, and conversed with the spirits. That is how I earned a meager living. Well, one night our carnival came to a village, somewhere in Mellow Russia. Peasants and the villagers gathered around our tents and wagons, and through a hole in a black box where I stood, I watched the crowd while a barker made his plea.
Verastro, the magician who speaks with the dead, tells the future, reads the secrets of life. Verastro, who reveals the past.
Then I saw her. She had a young and gentle face. She was beautiful. Oh, so beautiful. I couldn't take my eyes away. And then to my indescribable joy, a peasant led her in, and I saw at once the girl was blind.
This is my granddaughter, Anna. She would like you to tell her fortune.
Can you tell my future?
Yes, Anna, I can.
Will it be a happy one, my future?
Well, show me your hand, and I'll tell you.
Here.
I took her hand. And suddenly, I felt a chill. I could hear the voices which foretell the future.
Fly, fly, run.
Yes, I could hear them, and fear, a great fear gripped me, but the girl's beautiful, sightless eyes, they were so full of hope and faith, I just couldn't tell her the truth. Spirits promise you great happiness, Anna.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, your hands will touch beautiful things, and love and great happiness await you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Oh, thank you, thank you.
That was the beginning. Her face never left me that night, and I couldn't sleep. The next morning I looked for her, and I found her. We walked through the hills, and she spoke of the trees she could not see.
I call that tree Lullaby, because it sings when it sways in the wind.
Yes.
And this other I call Prayer. They told me its branches open toward heaven.
I was with her that whole day, and the next, and the next, and we walked often in the hills and the forest, and she knew every turn in a path. We were in love, and when it came time for the carnival to move on, I asked Anna to come with me as my wife.
You make me very happy, Gregor. I could live only with you. I love you with all my heart.
And I love you with all my heart, Anna. And I'll care for you, and I'll protect you.
And you'll teach me, Gregor. You'll teach me to see.
To see?
One doesn't need eyes to see as you do.
No, one does not.
Oh, please, Gregor. Teach me to see beyond the horizon. Please teach me to see as you see.
Yes, Anna. My sweet little Anna. And the day we were married, we rode together in a gilded wagon, and our vows were taken under a clear sky. But immediately after, the sky suddenly changed. I realized what I had done. It was I who was carrying out the terrible message of the stars. For it was I that fate had selected to destroy her. From From that moment on, I was haunted. One evening, it was less than a month later, I stood in a black box outside my tent, and I knew it had come. That graceful, smiling man who stood before the tent, he was studying Anna. Not once did he take his eyes from her. Hey, you, why do you stare at her?
Let go of my eye.
I don't want you to stare at her.
Who are you?
That makes no difference. She's my wife.
Oh, I most humbly beg your pardon, sir. You see, I was admiring your wife.
Yes?
Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Rico Sansoni, the hypnotist and magician.
Oh.
I'm going on a world tour soon, and I'd hoped she could join me as my assistant. I feel she has remarkable psychic powers.
She is blind.
I apologize doubly for my seeming forwardness.
Oh, I knew he sensed the ominous shadows around her as I did, but then he smiled, and I was disarmed, and soon I became interested in his talk. He talked like a friend. He flattered me about my knowledge of the secrets of our profession.
I noticed you performed a disappearing cage trick, Verastro.
Yes, I do.
A most difficult one that you performed magnificently.
Thank you. Well, come, Sansoni, I'd like you to meet my wife. She's here in the wagon.
Delighted, my dear Verastro. It's a privilege I'll not forget, let me assure you.
Oh, Gregor.
Hello, Anna.
Gregor, who is that with you?
Oh, it's a gentleman I want you to meet. Anna, this is Rico Sansoni.
A great pleasure. And a great sorrow. You see, I've been watching you tonight in the hope I could persuade you to become my assistant. But now I learn you're this charming gentleman's wife. How fortunate is the marvelous Verastro.
Marvelous Verastro? Anna, did you hear what he called me? Anna, what's the matter? Have you no word of greeting for our guest?
No.
What's the matter, Anna?
I have nothing to say.
I'm sorry. You see, my wife and I, we seldom have visitors.
I understand perfectly. But I hope that she will like me when she gets to know me better.
And so, Rico Sansoni entered our lives. In the days which followed, he attached himself ever more closely to us, as a lonely man would who seeks the friendship of those he likes. But Anna, she would never trust him. Sometimes after he would leave at night, she'd whisper,
I don't like him, Gregor. I don't like...
Why?
I feel something strange from him.
And I, like a fool, I would always defend him. I'd remind her of his gay talk and how he made us laugh and how interested he was in me and my methods of magic. Oh, I was flattered that even Rico wanted to learn from me. One night, Anna and I had just finished our dinner. She turned to me. She had a troubled expression on her beautiful face.
Gregor, there's something I must tell you.
What, my sweet? Are you getting tired of this kind of life, huh?
Oh, no, Gregor. It's this afternoon.
What about this afternoon? What about it, Anna?
Rico.
What about Rico?
This afternoon, Rico came here and talked to me as he always does.
Yes?
I suspected nothing. But then he took my hand in his and asked me if I loved you.
He asked you what?
If I loved you even more than happiness or life.
What did you say?
I was so frightened, I just asked him to leave. I don't like him, Gregor. I'm afraid.
Again, I reassured Anna. After all, what had happened? Nothing. Well, our friendship continued. Weeks passed. The carnival had moved to Hamburg, and we'd taken an apartment in the city. We spent the days together, and he was more and more interested in my every word and thought and mood, and as always, I was flattered by him.
You have a funny way of saying beautiful, my friend.
Hmm?
How is it again?
Beautiful.
Yes, that's it. Beautiful.
Look, Rico, you were telling me about that.
Beautiful. Oh, I like you, Gregor. I like you very much.
Yes, amazing, isn't it? How one can be taken in by flattery, yet so clever was he. I never realized the terrible truth of his friendship with me. I was in my tent one afternoon when a warning swept over me. It was all of a sudden, but I couldn't mistake it. I left the tent and I hurried to the apartment, and carefully I opened the door. Yes, there was Rico, standing with his arms around my wife, her face raised to his lips. She kissed him, and then I heard him talking. It was my voice he was using. My voice, completely mine. At the sound of his voice, a nameless fury seized me. Now I knew why he'd been so interested in me, why he'd spent so many hours with me. He'd learned to perfection how to use my voice. Now his words seemed to come from my own throat. I sprang forward, shouting, Rico, Anna, don't touch him, don't get him.
Amos G. Hall, the attorney, sits at his desk fascinated by the magician Barastro as he tells his strange story. Now the attorney leans forward.
That is incredible.
Yes.
You mean this Sansoni had studied your speech and mannerisms so perfectly that he was able to deceive your wife?
Yes, incredible as it may seem.
Well, go on.
Fine. I hardly remember rushing across the room. All I could think of was to kill this man, to kill him. Anna screamed, and he and I, we struggled across the room over chairs and tables, against the walls and the window. I saw him through my rage. Every feature had changed. He was Barastro. There were two of us. Yes, two. Barastro screaming together, fighting. Then he had me by the throat. His strength was terrifying. The breath began to leave my body as this horrible fiend changed, and he became Rico Sansoni again.
Barastro, have mercy, man. Gregor, you're killing me. I am dying.
Yes, he was pretending it was I who was killing him. He would kill me and live with Anna as Barastro. His cruel eyes burned into mine, and he leaned close to my ear and whispered,
You fool. I'll kill you for her.
It was then that I cried with all my might, Anna! And then suddenly a great darkness flooded over me. I don't know how much time had gone by when I opened my eyes. I looked around the room. It was gone. Then I saw Anna. She was crouched against the wall. I tried to whisper, Anna. I began to drag myself across the floor to her. When I got to her side, I tried to reach for her hand. She pulled it away and screamed. And then I realized her terror. Who was in the room with her? Was it Rico? Was it her husband? How could she know? I pleaded with her. I assured her again and again that Rico had gone, but she remained against the wall. her hand held in her teeth and staring into the terrible dark around her. Frantically, I searched my mind for words to tell her it was really I. Look, Anna, listen. Remember, Anna? Remember our walk through the hills? First time? Huh? See, remember, Anna, your trees? Remember them? The one you called Lullaby? And the one whose branches pointed to the sky? You called it Prayer. See? See, Anna? It is I. Listen carefully. Look, remember I read your future? It's the first time we met. I said, the spirits promise you happiness, and your hands will touch beautiful things. Love and great happiness await you, and you said, oh, thank you, sir, thank you.
Gregor. Gregor, hold me.
Yeah.
Gregor, please hold me close. Hold me close.
Yes, Anna. Yes. Rico had disappeared, but from that day on, I had only one thought: to guard against the day I knew must come. Traveled all over Europe, and she learned to smile and be happy again, and at times I felt her fears had left her.
Vienna's such a lovely city, Gregor. I knew it'd be like this in the spring. Gregor, these mountains, they're like the ones near my village. Why, I can almost see them. Oh, it's wonderful to be home, Gregor.
Yes,
To walk in our hills and over the old paths again.
Well, at last I felt it was safe to get a job in a cabaret. I had to get a job. Our savings were almost gone, and I had only worked there 2 weeks when I felt that same terrible warning sweep over me again. Choked and dizzy, I ran to our cottage. Yes, Rico was back. I stood there, motionless, silent, listening.
Oh, my Gregor.
I heard her laugh like a child. All I knew, I had to kill this devil who would take my wife, my identity, my happiness. I am sure if I had been able to think, I would have realized that I shouldn't rush into the room because it would kill her. I'm quite sure Rico knew it, but all I could think was I had to kill him. And then, Mr. Hall, I had a terrifying idea. What if Rico killed me? He'd go on living with her as Barastro, and she'd never know. See, Mr. Hall? Well, I opened the door and walked in. Anna, don't touch him. It's Rico. Well, this, sir, is my memory of Anna. She tore at her eyes with her hands as if to tear away the darkness. As I rushed to her, she fell. She didn't speak again, and the next morning she died. Huh? Sansoni. I think you understand now, Mr. Hall, why I'll kill Rico Sansoni tonight. Now you know why I may need your services to defend me. No, not my life, but my name and my honor. Good night, Mr. Hall.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I've practiced criminal law for 25 years, and I've heard many strange tales. But that night, I couldn't sleep. The next morning, there was an item in the paper. A train had hit a car in which 2 magicians were riding. One was killed, his body so badly cut up as to be unidentifiable. The other was in the hospital. I hurried over there, made inquiries, and went to the room. I quickly told the nurse my business, and she led me to the bed. 2 burning eyes, all that was left of a face, stared out through a mass of bandages as the nurse leaned over close to him.
Your attorney, Mr. Hall, is here.
Yes.
Well, I guess you will not have any need of my services after all. The police haven't placed a charge against you, have they?
Police? Well, should they? It was an accident. Just a bad accident.
Well, it must have been perfectly done. You know, the only thing I don't understand, how could you have killed him in the accident and not be killed yourself?
Well, I'm the marvelous Borasto, am I not? Or don't you believe me?
Next week, Mystery in the Air, starring Mr. Peter Lorre, brings you The Lodger by Mrs. Belloc Lowndes with a special musical score composed and conducted by Paul Barron.
Listen again next week at this same time when the makers of Camel cigarettes present Mr. Peter Lorre in Mystery in the Air. The artists supporting Mr. Lorre were Henry Morgan, John Brown, Barbara Eiler, Howard Culver, Jane Morgan, and Russell Thorson. This is Michael Roy in Hollywood wishing you all a pleasant good night for Camel.
This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.
Crime and Peter Chambers. Created by Henry Kane, transcribed and starring Dane Clark. Private investigator, duly licensed and duly sworn, Peter Chambers.
You're a private eye. That's your business. Anything else, that's for laughs. You're strolling along Fifth Avenue on a beautiful spring afternoon, and you stop at the window of Fitch's department store for a peek at the styles. And then suddenly, she's there beside you. A tall blonde with curves, an electric blonde with voltage. She looks undecided, seems as though she wants to say something, and, well, maybe spring has gotten into you. So you start the ball rolling with a deckless piece of dialogue. Beautiful day, isn't it?
Yes, lovely.
And the weather, it's perfect for strolling.
Yes,
May we stroll?
yes, yes, of course. My name is Angela Wentworth.
I'm Peter Chambers.
We're going to call on my uncle, Mr. Chambers. We'll go there directly, if you don't mind.
Uncle, she says. We're going to call on my uncle. Well, it's springtime in Manhattan, and the squirrels are out. But if that's the way she wants it, she's far too beautiful to argue with. So you accompany her to Madison, and in the elegant hotel, you ride up to the Tower apartment, and she nibbles with delicate knuckles on a thickly impressive door.
My uncle isn't well. I don't want to wake him if he's sleeping.
Do you have a key?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do.
Well, then let's use it, huh?
Oh, yes. Yes, I shall.
Inside, you get a back view of an old guy snoozing by an open window. You can't see his hands. They're in his lap. Angela taps you, and you tiptoe behind her into another room. She sits down and crosses her legs, and you've got trouble keeping your eyes away from her knees. But you manage.
Well, do you have it?
I beg your pardon?
Did you bring it?
Bring what?
The earring.
Earring? What?
Where's my handbag?
Handbag. Well, here it is.
Oh, thank you.
There you are.
Here. Read this. A clipping which I tore from the personal column of the Times. Please read it. Out loud.
All right. Let me see now. If the lady who lost an earring at the art students' ball Friday evening will meet me in front of Fitch's department store Tuesday afternoon between 2 and 2:30, I shall be happy to return.
Now, do you understand?
Yes, I do, and I'm terribly sorry.
Sorry? But why?
Look, Miss Wentworth, I didn't insert that ad.
You didn't, but...
No, I just happened to be there, and, well, you were there, and, well, conversation sprang up.
Oh. It's funny.
Yes.
Really funny. But I do think you ought to go now.
She sort of starts you on your way, but on your way, you get another look at the old man, and suddenly you don't like it. He hasn't moved, and there's a white waxiness behind his ears. And you go near.
What is it, Mr. Chambers?
He's dead. She passes out in a faint, and you let her lie. You go around to the front of the old man, and you take a look. He's got a gun in his hand and 2 bullet holes in his stomach. You're working at your trade now, and you work quickly and carefully. The room's in perfect order, absolutely no sign of a tussle. The old man's still warm, hasn't been dead an hour. Then, toward the middle of the room, you see it. A round red spot that sort of blends in with the russet color of the rug. You touch it. It's blood. Then you go back to the old man, you dig around in his pockets. You come up with a beautiful triangular emerald earring. And just then, Angela Wentworth starts stirring. Easy does it, Miss Wentworth. Come on. Let me help you up. There you are.
Oh, my uncle. Uncle.
He's dead. He appears to have shot himself.
Oh, no.
Now, look. Let's go back to the other room, huh?
All right.
Come on. Now, there, will you sit down?
Thank you.
I'll use the phone. Operator. Police headquarters, emergency.
I only left him perhaps an hour ago.
Hello? Hello, I want to report a death. That's right, a death. 598 Madison Avenue, a hotel, the Tower apartment. All right, now, Miss Wentworth, there's nothing we can do but wait for the police.
Oh, it's terrible, terrible.
Look, I found this earring in your uncle's pocket.
Oh, thank you. It's the mate of the one I lost.
Well, what was it doing in your uncle's pocket?
That clipping. The person said they would return the lost one if I could identify it. So I brought the mate here to Uncle. Left it with him and intended to bring the finder here with me. Show him the mate to the earring, which would be perfect identification.
Is it valuable?
Each earring is insured for $20,000, but... Oh, look, Mr. Chambers, may I please call somebody?
Well, sure. Who do you want to call?
Oliver Hartford, my brother-in-law. He's married to my sister. He came here with my uncle. They live way up in New Hampshire, all of them.
What about you?
Well, I live here in the city. May I call Oliver?
All right. Where's he staying?
Right here. This hotel. One of the downstairs suites.
Well, let's call him. Would you connect me with Mr. Hartford, please? There you are.
Thank you. Hello, Ollie. Come up to Uncle's suite. Quickly, please. The
guy shows. Oliver Hartford, big, young, and brawny. He sort of takes over in the comfort department for his sister-in-law. And presently there's an onslaught of cops, medical examiner, fingerprint men, and the works. And boss man of the works, your good friend, Detective Lieutenant Louis Parker. Looking a little harassed today, but working with his usual competence. And then after they're all done and the medical examiner has made his report and the body has been taken out, Parker takes you aside and you fill him in on your end of the deal.
Well, they got me working today. I got 3 unfinished cases. Now this thing pops up.
It never rains.
Medical examiner says suicide. The girls identified the gun as the old man's. M.E. says time of death, 2 o'clock. Door was locked.
Who else had keys?
Nobody but the old man. He lent his to the girl, and she was with you when the thing happened.
Check.
Suicide, period. Boy, I am busy today. Now, let me go in and talk to those 2, the relatives, and then I'll beat it out of here.
Sure, Louis.
Let me go talk to them. All right, then, Miss Wentworth, Mr. Hartford. Oh, by the way, Mr. Chambers here is a private detective, one of the best. So, just in case either of you are not satisfied with the way the police may be handling
well,
this-
we're perfectly satisfied, Lieutenant, of course.
All right, then, let's get some of the facts out of the way. Name of deceased, Robert Wentworth, a rich man, ex-oil man, worth many millions, retired, widower.
Yes, his only 2 living relatives, his nieces. Miss Angela Wentworth, and, of course, my wife, Marie Wentworth Hartford.
Where's your wife now?
Why, she's at home up in New Hampshire. See, I came in with Uncle Robert last week.
Okay. Medical examiner says suicide, and every external item points to suicide. Time, 2 o'clock. Now, where were you at 2 o'clock, Mr. Hartford?
In my room, napping.
And you, Miss Wentworth?
With Mr. Chambers on 5th Avenue near Fitch's department.
I'll corroborate that, Lieutenant.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers.
You're very welcome, Miss.
Yeah, all right.
Sorry, lost my head.
Now, this suicide thing, would Mr. Wentworth be disposed to suicide?
Oh, yes. No
well,
question
one at a
about
time now, please. One at a time, huh? You, Miss Wentworth.
Well, Lieutenant, my uncle was very ill. He was here for an operation. The doctors gave him very little chance.
Did he know that he had this very little chance?
Yes, of course he knew it. Better than any of us.
Yeah. Seems to be clean cut, no loose ends. Mr. Hartford.
Yes, sir.
Would you accompany me downtown? I need a member of the family, many little items of routine.
Why, yes, of course, Lieutenant, of course.
And so you're alone again with Miss Angela Wentworth. You take her home to a cute little apartment on East 34th, and there...
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. You've been very kind.
Not at all. Look, Angela, ours was a chance acquaintance, but there's no reason why it should end there.
No. No reason at all. I like you very much, Mr. Chambers.
And, I like you. Look, a lawyer was mentioned back there. Was that the only person your uncle would want to see to arrange his affairs?
No, there was another, and much more important. Algernon Sacco, his business advisor.
Sacco?
He has an office down on Pine Street.
Bye now, Miss Wentworth. I'll be in touch with you.
Yes, please do.
Now, here's a brand new wrinkle. Algernon Sacco, crooked as a country road. A big operator and a shrewd one. You tangled with him a few times, but that was way back, before he acquired respectability and a few rich clients. An old cackle voice guy, but smart as a brand new whip. So, you're down on Pine Street, old stone and steel. No pines. No pines at all.
Yeah. Who do you wish to see?
Mr. Sacco, and tell him I'm in a hurry.
Nobody's in a hurry with Mr. Sacco.
I'm in a hurry. Use that little intercom of yours and tell him Peter Chambers.
Just a minute.
Yes?
Mr. Sacco, a gentleman here to see you. Says he's in a hurry. A Mr. Peter Chambers.
Who did you say?
A Mr. Peter Chambers.
Oh, of course. Send him in at once.
See what I mean, baby? I'm a real VIP.
That door to your right, Mr. Chambers.
Well, good to see you again, my dear private operator.
Algy, my boy, I shall not mince, as they say, words.
To the point, then, Peter.
Robert Wentworth.
Oh, excellent client.
Loaded?
$20 million.
Oh, boy, are you going to be sad to hear this.
Yeah, what?
He's dead.
Dead? You're kidding.
I never kid when it has to do with death. Now, look, I want the rundown on this guy, and I want it fast, and I want it all. Did he have a will?
Yes.
Well, come on, let's hear.
The will left his entire estate to his two nieces, Angela and Marie.
Wow. $10 million each, huh? And who was the executor to this will?
Me, Algernon Sacco.
Pretty piece of change involved for Algernon Sacco.
Yes, now that he's dead, before he changed his will, I'll earn that pretty piece of change. Fees and commissions, it mounts up, it mounts up.
Now, wait a minute. You just said before he changed his will. Did he have any intention of changing it?
Well,
Come on, look, pal, there might be a motive here for murder.
Oh, you mean
It's got its angles, but if it gets to the cops, it gets to the newspapers, and all your background gets washed up. Now, you can't use that, Algie, not the new, respectable Algernon Sacco.
What do you want to know?
Well, you know what the man says all the time. The facts, pal, the facts.
Well, he came in late last week and discussed changing his will. He felt that his nieces were well provided for, and he was making up his mind to leave his entire estate to medical research.
Did you like that?
No, I did not.
So what did you do about it?
So I got in touch with Oliver Hartford. After all, a change of will meant a loss to Mr. Hartford's wife of $10 million. And when your wife loses, you lose.
What did his Hartford do about it?
I don't know. But he was going to tackle the old man and see if he couldn't talk him out of it.
Okay, Algie, thanks for the information. Keep respectable, pal.
Peter Chambers!
You're working now. You're beginning to smell what you suspected. Murder. You get up to Angela Wentworth's place and she opens the door for you and your eyes pop. She's wearing blue silk lounging pajamas and she has a pony of brandy in her hand. Blue silk lounging pajamas. They were born to be worn by Angela Wentworth.
It's good to see you again, Mr. Chambers.
Likewise, Miss Wentworth. You, seem to be rolling with the blow.
Well, I've been thinking about it. Uncle Robert was an old man and very ill. Perhaps it was for the best.
Look, at the ball you attended when you lost your earring...
Would you like some brandy, Mr. Chambers?
Well, I'll take a rain check on it. Now, that ball you attended, who went with you? I mean, who was your escort?
Oliver, my brother-in-law. Uncle insisted. I think I had one cocktail too many at that ball. That earring was gone before I realized it. Mr. Chambers? Mr. Chambers, where are you going?
You're going to pay a social call on Oliver Hartford. You knock on his door and he opens and you pull your way in.
Hey, what's the meaning of this? What's the matter with you?
Nothing. Just got no manners, I suppose.
Get out of here.
I'm going, but you're coming with me.
I'm going with you? Where?
Downtown, police headquarters.
And just what are we going to do there?
I'm going to accuse you of murder. Oliver swings, you duck. You swing, Oliver ducks. But he doesn't duck good enough. He goes down and out. And as you finish the pivot of your swing, there stands Detective Lieutenant Louis Parker in the doorway.
Real nice form, Pete. You're starting to get your shoulders into it. Huh?
Thanks, Louis.
Incidentally, apologies to the private eye.
From whom?
From me. I'm not busy anymore.
So?
So the old guy was murdered. He wasn't a suicide.
That's my Louis.
Got finished with the press of business, had time to think. If there's a spot of blood in the middle of the room, how come we find the old guy in the rocker by the window?
Exactly. He was shot in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
Then he was pulled over to the rocker, the gun was wiped and put into his hand.
Furthermore, downtown, a paraffin test shows the old guy never fired the gun, and that clinches it.
That figures. Where have you been till now, Louis?
Backtracking after you. Saw that Sacco guy, saw that Angela, read that newspaper clipping.
He took her to the ball, Oliver did.
Sure, and he stuffs her full of cocktails, then clips the earring.
And sticks that phony ad in the paper.
So he can get her out of the way. Then he goes in to see the old man, bumps him with his own gun, fixes it for suicide, and leaves. And the door locks on the clicker, so we got a locked room in the bargain.
Well, what's our next step, Louis?
Well, we take this bum downtown. Let's get him back to consciousness. We take him downtown and see how he acts under a bright white light.
Oliver Hartford at headquarters gets closeted with Detective Parker and a host of excellent interrogators. You wait across the street in Luke McCool's Lonesome Bar and Grill. You sip on a stinger and you ponder. It figures for about 2 hours. Brother, when cops know you done it, and you're an amateur. You're a blustering wise guy for part of the way, but pretty soon you break wide open. Unless you're very smart or very stubborn. And you've got a feeling that Oliver may be very stubborn. So you're off and running, and you're making tracks again for Angela Wentworth's place.
Come in, Mr. Chambers. You're becoming quite a regular visitor. And I like it.
You like it, too, but you don't have the time.
I offer brandy. Again, Mr. Chambers.
And again, I've got to refuse. Double rain check this time, Miss Wentworth. Now, look. That earring, may I have it?
The earring?
Look, may I call you Angela?
Oh, please do.
Well, you can trust me with it. I had it once, and I give it back to you, remember?
Yes, but why...
Please, let me have it, and I'll return it to you. And when I do, I've got a hunch I'll have the time for, perhaps a brandy or two.
All right, Mr. Chambers. Here it is.
And so you're back in Luke McCool's lonesome bar and grill across the street from headquarters, and you're trifling with stingers again when Parker shows up. And he hangs a face in front of you that's longer than a lover's kiss.
Pete, boy, we've got us a tartar.
Meaning who?
Meaning that Oliver Hartford. Tough boy.
What's tough? The guy killed Uncle Robert so that his wife could pick up 10 million solid simoleons. There's no one else, Louis. No one else could possibly have done it, nobody with motive.
You're so right, boy. Angela, she was with you. Sacco, no question, he was in his office all day. The other niece, Oliver's wife, we've checked it. She's in New Hampshire. No question, we've got the right pigeon. We've got him right up to the break-in point, but he won't break. Pete, all I need is a gimmick, one little thing to shove him over.
And I've got it for you, Lieutenant.
Got what?
The crowbar that'll topple the rock. Only this crowbar is green, it's shiny, and it's worth $20,000. Here. Look.
Hey, that's a beauty. Where'd you get that?
Out of Oliver Hartford's suite.
No.
Yep. So, Louis, my lad, take this earring and shove it down his throat.
Gimme, pal.
So you're alone once more, and you've got your fingers crossed. Psychologically, it fits. But if it blows up, you're going to be in the middle of the explosion. If it blows, it'll blow all over you. But 20 minutes later, Park is back, and he's beaming. He returns the earring, and he claps you on the back. And a clap on the back from Parker is like a jolt to the jaw from Marciano.
Got him good. Full confession, the works. Broke him down completely. Oh, and now he's up the other alley pleading for leniency.
You tricked him, Louis.
I tricked him. No, not me. That's my pride. I'm a straight cop. I tricked nobody.
I know. So I had to trick you into tricking him.
What are you talking about?
The emerald earring.
What about it?
It's the wrong one. It's the one out of Uncle's pocket. The mate to the one that disappeared.
The wrong one? Well, then where's the right one?
Well, it must be where, psychologically, it ought to be. Now, you had the guy on the brink, Louis. There wasn't time to go looking for the right one, so I used the wrong earring for the right purpose, and it worked. So now...
Let's go find the right one.
You accompany Parker and 5 of his best boys to Oliver's suite, and they give it a professional going-over, and they come up with the earring. Inside, a cake of soap. Amateurs are all alike. They think they've discovered a brand new hiding place just because they thought of it. Parker gives them to you, the pair.
Go ahead, kiddo. You return them. You may as well get something out of this. Glory, at least.
And so the private eye, in proper tradition, is back where he belongs, in the beautiful lady's apartment. He partakes of a bit of brandy, and then he presents her with a complete set of emerald earrings.
Oh, Mr. Chambers, I don't know how to thank you.
Think nothing of it, ma'am?
A fee. Would you perhaps accept a fee?
No, thanks. Nothing as mundane as a fee.
But I just don't know how to thank you.
Well, you think about it, Angela. Just sip your brandy and think.
Come here, Mr. Chambers.
Oh, I'm coming, ma'am.
I think I know what you mean. Something like this. Oh, Mr. Chambers.
And there you've had Crime and Peter Chambers. Dane Clark was starred as Peter Chambers. Crime and Peter Chambers Transcribed was created and written by Henry Kane. Others in the cast were Bill Zuckert, heard as Lieutenant Parker, Joyce Gordon as Angela, and Bernard Grant as Oliver. It was directed by Fred Way. And this is Fred Collins inviting you to tune in next week, same time, same station, for Dane Clark in Crime and Peter Chambers.
My name is Russell. I'm the man whose adventures you will hear about in the Mystery Theater, which follows right away.
Hello, headquarters. This is Patrolman Witt reporting from police call box number 5 at Drake Avenue. Any orders? Nothing, eh? Okay. Here? No, it's beat as quiet as a church tonight. Yep, goodbye. What? Gunshots. Came from that direction, too. Here, what's going on?
Oh, the policeman. I'm glad you came along. Officer, my name's Murray.
What are you doing with that gun? Drop it.
Yes, sir, but I want to report a murder.
Wait a minute. This man here, he's dead. Who is he?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't, eh? Put your hands up. You're under arrest.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jeffrey Barnes welcoming you to the program that presents the best in mystery and detective fiction. You have just heard the opening scene of tonight's exciting story. It is entitled The 11th Juror, written by Vincent Starrett and presents one of the most unusual court trials in mystery fiction. You have just heard the committing of the murder and the arrest of the accused, James Murray. But on with the trial. We take you now to the jury room where you will meet the leading character of Vincent Starrett's dramatic story, The 11th Juror. Yes, my name is Russell. Steve Russell. I'm the 11th juror of the jury assigned to the case of the people versus James Murray. We've been out for 2.5 days, and every ballot we've taken has had the same result. 11-1 for a guilty verdict. I'm the one. I'm the holdout. And by now, my fellow jurymen are crying to go home and beginning to hate me. Hate me because I won't go along with them and hang an innocent man.
Now, wait a minute, please. Now, wait a minute. Quiet down. Now, look here, Mr. Dean. Being foreman of this jury doesn't give you the privilege of riding roughshod. I demand that we take another ballot. Riding roughshod, huh? Look who's talking. Mr. Russell. As you well know, we've had 27 ballots now. And unless you're ready to change them... Hold on. How do you know some of the others won't change their vote?
Now, let him have his ballot, Dean. Maybe it'll make him see the light.
Okay. So we'll have another ballot. Get out the pencils, boys.
Well, I got writer's cramp. Can't we just have a voice vote?
Okay. Voice vote it is. And, Russell, if you lose this time, I hope you'll get over your pig-headedness and come along with us. I'm not half as pig-headed as you are, Dean. Oh, you're not, eh? Well, let me tell you...
Come on. Are we going to vote or aren't we?
All right. All who vote guilty, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Eh?
11-1. Same old song and dance.
Well, I'm sorry, boys, but like I've said before, unless one of you can prove to me that James Murray had some motive to kill Howard Blessing...
Motive be hanged. Murray was drunk. He shot Blessing in a drunken rage.
Oh, don't waste your breath arguing with him. In 2 hours, the judge will be calling this a mistrial. And then some other jury can put the noose around Murray's neck.
Murray so that they can go home. Well, who doesn't want to go home? I dare say my business suffers from my absence more than theirs does. You know, if it wasn't for Dean, I think my argument about James Murray having no motive for this killing would carry more weight. Because Murray didn't have any motive. He didn't have any at all. Let me tell you about the trial, and you'll see what I mean. Just the highlights. First, there was a testimony of Patrolman Witt. He was a policeman who made the arrest.
Continue, Officer Witt. Well, I ran in the direction I heard the shots come from. Howard Blessing lay dead with 2 bullets in him. James Murray stood there just looking at the gun in his hand, sort of dazed like. I could tell he'd been doing a lot of drinking.
How long between the time you heard the shots and the time you reached the scene, officer?
About half a minute.
Then isn't it possible that someone other than Murray could have fired the shots, dropped the gun, and run, leaving Murray to pick the gun up before you reached the scene?
Well,
Never mind, that's all. State's witness.
Officer Witt, is it not so that the murder took place directly beneath the street light?
Yes.
When you rounded the corner of Belvedere and Lambeth, a quarter block away, did you see anyone else in the street? Anyone at all?
No, sir. Not a soul. Just the prisoner, James Murray, and the deceased, Howard Blessing.
There you are, gentlemen. Why, the defense is evidently trying to confuse you by implying that some unknown murderer exists. Had anyone else fired those shots and run, leaving poor Mr. Murray holding the gun? Officer Witt would have seen this unknown man in the streetlight.
Objection. Even the prosecutor could run out of the range of the streetlight inside of a few seconds.
We are wasting time, Your Honor. I am not concerned with a mythical murderer, a galloping ghost. We are concerned with James Murray, caught standing over a dead man and holding a smoking revolver in his hand.
Mrs. Pearson, you live on the ground floor apartment on Lambeth Avenue near Belvedere?
Yes, sir.
Tell the court what you heard about 2 o'clock on the night of the murder.
Well, I was sitting by the window when I heard 2 men pass by. They were arguing.
You heard the prisoner speak. Was either of the voices his?
I beg your pardon?
I said, was either of the voices you heard that of the prisoner?
Certainly not. One man had a kind of whiny voice. The other was deep and rumbly like.
Gentlemen, Howard Blessing, the murdered man, had a whiny voice. We can prove that. James Murray is far from having a deep one. That's all, Mrs. Pearson. Thank you. Your witness, Mr. Prosecutor.
Mrs. Pearson, you didn't see these men, did you?
Oh, what was that?
I say you didn't see the men?
Oh, no, it was too dark.
Yes, you heard them plainly.
How?
But you heard them.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Pearson, did you hear the shots fired a few minutes later?
Beg pardon?
I said, did you hear the revolver shots?
No, but
Gentlemen, Mrs. Pearson heard 2 men arguing through a closed window, yet she couldn't hear 3 pistol shots less than a block away. She can barely hear my questions in this room. That's all, Mrs. Pearson.
Mr. Trapp, you've known the deceased, Howard Blessing, for some time?
About 5 years. We were pretty good friends.
And you knew Blessing was a widower, Mr. Trapp, whose wife died some years back?
Yes.
Did Howard Blessing ever show you a small framed miniature of his wife?
Oh, yes. Many times. He always carried it with him.
Did he show it to you the night he was killed?
Yes.
Did you see him put it back on his person?
Yes.
What is the point of this line of questioning?
I'm trying to establish, Your Honor, that this miniature disappeared. That it was taken from the murdered man by some unknown person. That's all, Mr. Trapp. Prosecution's witness.
No questions.
Mr. Murray, how did you happen to be at Belvedere and Lambeth at the time of the murder?
Well, I was on my way home. I had had several drinks. I don't know, frankly, how I got where I was. Well, I was just there.
Did you have a gun on your person when you left the Black Owl Tavern to go home?
Oh, certainly not.
Mr. Murray, did you ever know or hear of the deceased Howard Blessing until the morning of your arrest?
Oh, never. So help me God, I never knew him. Never heard of him.
He was a total stranger?
Yes. A total stranger.
That's all. Prosecution's witness.
Mr. Murray. Mr. Murray, where do you live?
102 Bedford Road.
And you were drinking at the Black Owl Tavern on Oak Street?
Yes, sir.
Then how could you have been on your way home at Belvedere and Lambeth?
I don't know. I just wandered that way.
I see. And in your wandering, Mr. Murray, you plucked a gun out of thin air, huh?
No, that is I don't know how I got it.
Gentlemen, why go on? In summing up Mr. Murray's testimony, we find that he says he was innocent, but admits he was too drunk to know. We find that he was on his way home, but going in the opposite direction. We learn that Mr. Murray didn't have a gun with him. But gentlemen, the gun found in his hand and marked Exhibit A on that table, that is no mirage. Nor was the dead Howard Blessing a mirage. Nor the bullets that killed him. That is stark truth. That is murder. Now, what has the defense offered as proof of Murray's innocence? A witness so hard of hearing that she couldn't hear revolver shots, yet who claims she heard two men argue as they passed her window. A vague story about a miniature which the dead man didn't have on his person. And then the fact that Murray didn't know Blessing. Oh, that is a honey. Is Blessing any less dead because he was a stranger to this gun-toting drunkard? No, gentlemen. Murray killed Blessing. Stranger or not, he's guilty. Murray must hang.
Well, those were the highlights of the trial. Oh, I admit the circumstantial evidence against James Murray is pretty strong. But the judge said if there was any reasonable doubt in our minds as to whether Murray killed Howard Blessing, we should find Murray innocent. Well, there's plenty of reasonable doubt in my mind. Oh, that must be the bailiff coming in to ask if we reached a decision. Yeah, the 2 hours have passed. Oh, now it looks like we'll have to admit a mistrial.
Well, boys, this is it. Just a minute, Dean. You dropped something. Huh? What did I drop? Oh, on the floor here. Looks like...
Holy mackerel.
What's the matter, Russell? What is it?
This changes everything.
Just a minute, boys. Bailiff, come back in 30 minutes.
What does he mean?
Hey, what goes?
What's the idea, Russell? What was that you picked up off the floor?
Look here, Russell. What do you think you are telling the bailiff to come back in 30 minutes?
You'll find out all too soon, Mr. Dean. Fellow jurors, now you'll have to listen to me. Fellow jurors, listen to me. You all remember during the testimony that the defense made a point out of the fact that a certain miniature bearing the picture of Howard Blessing's wife disappeared from Blessing's pocket just before he was murdered. Well, boys, before we decide to hang Murray, perhaps Mr. Dean would like to explain what this miniature happened to be doing in his pocket.
And now back to Jeffrey Barnes and Act 2 of The 11th Juror.
James Murray, a smoking gun in his hand, has been found standing drunkenly over the body of one Howard Blessing. All the jurymen, with the exception of Steve Russell, believe Murray is guilty of murder. Russell has held out for nearly 3 days. Just as the foreman of the jury, a Mr. Dean, is about to report a mistrial to the court, Russell electrifies the jury room by demanding to know how a mysterious miniature, supposedly belonging to the murdered man, has found its way into Dean's pocket.
For the 10th time, fellow jurymen, I tell you, I never saw that miniature before in my life. And I don't know how it could have gotten into my pocket.
And Dean's the man, my friends, who wouldn't believe James Murray when he said he didn't know how that gun got in his hand.
How about that, Dean?
Your story doesn't hold water, Dean.
Take it easy, will you, fellas?
All right, boys, just a minute, please. Just a minute. I think this thing has gone far enough now. I've made my point.
Huh? What point, Russell?
Here's what Dean dropped out of his pocket.
Well, that's my watch fob.
What?
Your watch fob? Hey, what goes here?
Yeah, what is this, Russell?
What are your
Boys, when Dean accidentally dropped that watch fob on the floor, I saw my chance to teach all of you a lesson.
A lesson?
I picked it up, said it was a miniature. Then slipped it in my pocket and watched you fellas swarming all over Dean. Ready to hang him at the drop of the hat. On circumstantial evidence, mind you. Now, don't you see that you're doing the exact same thing to James Murray? No one actually saw him shoot Howard Blessing, and Murray was too drunk to know what happened. I claim somebody else could have shot Blessing, shoved the gun into Murray's hand, and beat him.
Now, wait a minute, Russell. I admit you've made us all look like fools over this watch fob. But that doesn't prove your story about an unknown killer. Not for my money, it doesn't.
Oh, why not? Perhaps a hold-up man, a thug killed Blessing.
Why wasn't his money taken?
Okay, so it wasn't a hold-up man. Perhaps it was some enemy of his. Why, there could have been 100 different reasons why somebody might have wanted to kill Blessing.
Oh, yeah? Name one.
Name one? I could give you a dozen right here and now.
I said give just one.
What's the matter, Russell? Did he call you bluff? You can't even name one. Now, wait a minute. Do I understand you fellows to mean that if I can make up a story showing how Blessing was killed, you'll admit there's a reasonable doubt of Murray's guilt?
Huh? Why not?
Well, I, for one, would, anyhow. How about the rest of you?
Okay, sit tight and hold your hats. As I said, I can make up a dozen different stories. So this is just one way the murder might have happened. Now, let's say about 10 years ago in a small Ohio town, there's a guy named Smith. Let's call him George Smith.
10 years ago. Some start.
Quiet, Dean. I'll give him a chance.
Smith standing on the station platform with a girl. And we'll call her Elsie. She's crying a little, and he's talking to her. He says,
I don't want to go, sweetheart. But I can't make a set in this burg. You want to marry me, don't you, dear?
And she says,
Yes, darling, yes. And I know you're right. I know Father won't let us marry till you've got money and a good job. But it might take so long, and I love you so much.
There, you get the picture? Smith is leaving for the big city to make lots of money, so the old man will okay his marrying Elsie. Well, the train's about to go, and they kiss. And Smith hops aboard, shouting,
Wait for me, darling. Wait.
And she says,
Forever, George, forever.
Well, get this. She doesn't wait. No, it's not her fault. Another guy comes on the scene. He's a rat of a guy with flashy clothes and a fast line of pattern. And he works on Elsie, real slow and smooth. And the rat says,
Hi, Elsie. I was talking to Tommy in the barber shop today. Says he heard George was doing well in Chicago. He says his father saw George at one of the hot spots there when he was in Chicago last month.
You see? This home base rubber starts slow, but let's say in about a year he's got Elsie so she believes most anything. Now,
Russell, I don't see what this corny story of yours has to do with the case.
Dean, let me finish.
Okay, shoot.
By the way, Russell, who is this rat?
Suppose we say his name's Howard Blessing.
What? Blessing? A murdered man? Hey, what are you getting at? Shut up and let him talk. What happens next, Russell?
Well, Smith had no way of figuring out why when his letters weren't answered. He stays on in the city, and finally a wedding announcement reached him. Just a wedding announcement.
So Blessing has ruined the boy meets girl routine, eh?
Right. Now, let's say Smith knows Blessing from way back. Well, it burns him up, see? Mr. and Mrs. Blessing instead of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, get it? But he's a right sort, so he swallows it. Only it hurts going down.
Brother, have you got an imagination? You ought to write for the movies.
He sure should. But what's all this got to do with Murray?
Why do you interrupt so much, Dean? Well, don't you want me to finish this story? Well, I have no objection.
All right, then. Shut up. Go ahead, Russell.
Right. Now, let's say a few years pass, and one day Smith gets a letter. And it's a letter from the girl's mother. It's a sad letter saying,
Dear George, my baby married a fiend whose brutality and unfaithfulness finally became more than she could bear. We found my poor little girl hanging in her cellar last Monday of suicide. Howard Blessing is as much a murderer as though he had done it.
So let's say the letter went something like that, huh? Now, if you fellows sat in judgment on Blessing, what would you do?
Wait a minute. Are you guys going to let him go on with his third-rate version of East Lynn?
No skin off your nose, Dean.
Now, look, Dean, this is the third time you've interrupted. You sure you haven't some reason why Russell shouldn't finish the story?
Why, no.
Okay. Go ahead, Russell.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, let's imagine Blessing caught sight of Smith in town one day. Might make a guy like Blessing carry a gun from then on, mightn't it?
Might. Well, we suppose so, anyhow.
Fine. Now comes the night of the murder. Smith runs into Blessing on Lambeth Avenue. Smith says he's going to beat Blessing's head off. They go up the street arguing. And that's what the Pearson woman heard through her window.
Yeah.
They get to the corner, and Blessing begins to whine. He takes out the miniature of his dead wife, Elsie, and he shows it to Smith. And Blessing says,
Smith, look, I want to show you something. Look, I loved Elsie. Here, I've got her picture. Would I carry it with me if I hadn't loved her?
Well, that's all Smith needs, the sight of that picture. He slaps it out of Blessing's hand and grabs it by the collar. Blessing pulls a gun out of his pocket. Smith grabs his hand and says,
Give me that gun, you idiot.
Blessing pulls the trigger. Once. And Smith grabs Blessing's wrist. Smith wants to protect himself, you see. All right. The men struggle. And suddenly the gun goes off. Twice. Blessing's head. He goes down. Right there is where Murray comes up. He staggers up, drunk as a hoot owl. And then Smith scoops up the miniature and beats it, leaving Murray standing over the dead man.
Then the cop rushes up, sees Murray, and Murray's on the way to the gallows.
Exactly. Absolutely right. And that, boys, is one story of how it might have happened. Now, you want to hear a few more possibilities?
Not me. I'm convinced there's plenty of reasonable doubt about Murray's guilt. I vote for acquittal.
All right, let's make that official. Let's make it official. All in favor of acquittal signify by saying aye. Aye. Well, that does it. I think we're now ready to inform the court that we've reached a verdict.
Not so fast.
What?
I haven't voted yet. A few questions.
Yes, Dean?
You say you made this story up?
That's right.
Then it proves nothing, right?
Sure it does, Dean. It proves somebody besides Murray might have killed Blessing. It proves reasonable doubt.
Not in my book, it doesn't. I still think Murray is guilty. So this is still a mistrial.
What? Oh, right back where we started.
This is the last straw.
So let's call the bailiff and get it over with. Bailiff! Bailiff! He'll be here in a minute, and what do you think of that, Russell?
Well, I think I'm licked.
Huh?
I think I can't stall any longer.
Huh?
Dean, I've convinced everyone but you. Now I'm going to convince you. Take a look at this.
What is it?
Now, let me see. What's it? This is a miniature.
A miniature?
That's right.
And this means that you're...
Right again. Take a good look, boys. The George Smith in my story is me. Steve Russell.
Holy mackerel.
Gee, Jehoshaphat. By coincidence, luck, chance, I was called on this jury. And then I couldn't stand to see Murray die.
Well, where do we go from here?
You called me, Foreman?
Huh? Oh, yes, bailiff. You can tell the judge we've arrived at a verdict.
Yes, sir.
And bailiff.
Yes? Yes, Mr. Dean?
Bailiff, step outside a moment.
Yes, sir.
Boys, we all know Murray is innocent. But what are we going to do about Russell? As you know, the proceedings in this jury room are confidential. Any recommendation we make must be made officially to the court. Now, do we turn Russell over for trial or not? Well?
Mr. Foreman,
Yes?
Well, I say we forget Russell's story.
What about the rest of you?
Dean, in my opinion...
Yes?
In my opinion... Russell killed Blessing in self-defense. I say we forget about it.
That's a good idea.
Forget about it.
Okay, then. It's agreed. We find Murray not guilty and let it go at that. The case is closed.
There is an epilogue to tonight's story. Steve Russell eventually, of his own volition, stood trial and was acquitted. Yes, Mystery fans, I think we can call the 11th juror's attempt to save an innocent man a complete success. This is Jeffrey Barnes again, ladies and gentlemen, inviting you to be with us next week when we will present Eric Ambler's suspenseful study of mortal terror, his popular adventure and mystery entitled Journey into Fear. It was especially adapted for radio by the very popular Milton Geiger. So, mystery fans, be sure to listen next week to Eric Ambler's Journey into Fear.
The original music is composed and conducted by Jack Miller. The 11th Juror was written by Vincent Starrett and adapted for radio by Christopher Mayo.
Danger with Granger.
This is Granger. The place, my apartment. On the Davenport opposite me sits a woman, white-faced and tense.
Midnight. This waiting, Granger. I can't stand it any longer.
I told you it wouldn't be easy, Mrs. Milroy. You should have taken a sleeping tablet and got some rest.
I can't. There's always the chance for something might go wrong at the last minute.
I hardly think so.
That's it, Granger. The telephone.
I know. Hello? Yes, this is Steve Granger. Of course. He's been here since 10 o'clock. I see. That's it, huh? Yes, I'll tell her.
Well?
It's over, Mrs. Milroy. Your husband went to the electric chair exactly 11:45 p.m. The attending doctor has just pronounced him dead. This is Steve Granger, private detective, with a story about a man who believed he could get away with murder, and very nearly did. In just a moment, I'll take you back to one of my most interesting cases. This is Granger. The story began the day Mrs. Elwood Milroy walked into my office. She was tall, slim, and beautiful, with red hair and brown eyes, which looked even browner because they were circled with worry.
Mr. Granger, I've come to you because there's something terrible and unbelievable taking place. I don't know how to start telling you.
Well, the beginning's always a good place.
It concerns my husband.
Elwood Milroy? Hey, he's a well-known criminologist, right?
Yes. And he intends to kill somebody.
No kidding. Who's the intended victim?
A very good friend of mine named Newman. Peter Newman.
Boyfriend?
Mr. Granger, I might as well be frank with you. I've been married to Elwood Milroy for 15 years. I realized after it was too late that I should never have married Elwood. I've known Peter for many years, so this isn't just a summer romance, if that's what you're thinking.
I don't handle divorce cases, Mrs. Milroy.
That's not what I want you to do. The divorce does come into it. My husband's been quite agreeable about one, until lately. He saw me lunching with Peter Newman. He was waiting when I arrived home. There was a scene. He changed his mind, said that there'd never be a separation.
Mrs. Milroy, I told you I don't meddle in divorce cases.
I know that. What I want you to do is to stop my husband from committing a murder.
Why don't you go to the police?
You think they'd believe me? I can't even tell whether you do.
Okay, I'll take your case, Mrs. Milroy. How and when do I start?
My husband is delivering a lecture this evening at an uptown auditorium. I'm going, and I have an extra ticket. I thought you might like to attend. It might give you something to work on.
Yes, it might at that. I'll be there, Mrs. Milroy.
One thing, Mr. Granger. My husband is to know nothing of our conversation.
At 8 o'clock that night, I was seated near Mrs. Milroy in an auditorium on Upper Broadway. Her husband wound up his lecture at exactly 10 p.m.
Old-fashioned methods of crime detection are no longer usable when one deals with a modern criminal. As science has advanced, the criminal has also advanced. And you, who are specialists in the field of criminology, must anticipate these advances. I thank you. Well, Edith, my dear, I hardly expected you to attend another one of my lectures. Surely you've heard them so often, you must know them by heart.
I always attend your lectures, Elwood.
Yes, of course. Oh, you do. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Milroy. I wanted to come over and tell you how much I enjoyed your lecture.
Thank you.
In a small way, I'm in the same business you are.
Oh, really?
My name's Granger, Steve Granger.
Of course, a private eye, isn't that the phrase? Oh, my dear, permit me, Steve Granger, my wife, Edith.
Hello.
How do you do?
So you enjoyed my lecture, did you?
Thoroughly.
Well, that's rather strange, Granger. I understand that you were one of the old-school type.
If you mean I chase him until I catch him, you're right.
That's what I'd heard about you. It's too bad that men of your type don't realize that progress is here, even in the criminal field. You'll run into one of the new crop of criminals, Granger, and when you do, where will your old-fashioned methods take you? You'll be as outmoded as a horseless carriage.
Now, don't get me wrong. I go in for the scientific stuff, too. The fingerprints, ballistics, all that stuff. You use them because you hope the criminal made a blunder. But in the final analysis, it's the old-fashioned bloodhound with its nose to the ground who comes up with the net result.
Yes, I've heard all that. And you've confirmed what I've heard about you. Oh, there's someone I must have a word with. Excuse me, won't you?
Nice guy. What's the idea of little pills? He popped about 3 of them in his mouth in as many minutes. What's wrong with him? Is he sick?
No, but he's a confirmed hypochondriac.
Oh, wow.
Granger, he knows I've spoken to you.
You mean you've told him?
Of course not. But he sensed it. I'm sure he has.
Take it easy now. That's just nerves.
No, it isn't. He knows, I tell you. He knows.
I hung around the auditorium for a while, then wandered outside. When Elwood Milroy and his wife left the place, I followed them home. Then I loitered around a few minutes and went back to my apartment. I was just putting the key in my door when I got a surprise.
Granger, one moment, please.
Mr. Milroy, well, I didn't know you lived in this building.
I don't. You know it. I came to see you.
Oh, why?
I don't like talking in corridors. Can we go in?
Of course. After you, Mr. Milroy.
Granger, I'm not going to beat around the bush with you. You followed me home tonight.
Did I?
Stop evading me. You were in a cream-colored taxi. The number was 673. You dismissed the cab half a block down the street. You loitered around for a while, and then you left.
How do you know all this, Milroy? You were waiting for me when I walked into this building.
That was simple. I slipped out the back door of my place, watched you for a moment, got a cab, and anticipated your next move. I was right. You came here.
Nice going.
Simple deduction. Now then, Granger, why were you following me?
I'm not at liberty to tell you.
Was it my wife?
I told you I'm not at liberty to tell you.
Oh, it was my wife. Granger, I'm going to tell you something. Edith suffers from a persecution complex. She seems to be under the impression that I'm going to kill her.
If you know all this, why come up here?
Because I will not be trailed around. I am not a criminal. I've done nothing wrong. Also, if my wife is your client, and I'm reasonably sure she is, I'll tell you something more. I intend to give her the divorce she wants.
Have you told her all this?
I shall in good time. So, Granger, let me repeat. Leave me alone, or I shall take steps.
Okay. And until tomorrow, you can take steps right this second through that door, Mr. Crime Expert.
Suppose I choose not to leave right now.
This is my home. You're an intruder, an insulting intruder, I might say. I'd be justified in throwing you out on your face.
You might be justified, but could you do it?
Milroy, I've taken all I'm going to from you. You've slung a lot of fancy phrases around, made a lot of nasty cracks. Or have you forgotten what you said at the auditorium?
I remember every word.
Now get out of here. I'll toss you right out.
I'd like to see that.
Okay, you will.
That was a scientific little move taken from the Book of Judah, Granger. You want some more?
Yes, I think I do.
Really, I'd better leave a little note with you explaining what that was. We call it a rabbit punch.
I'll continue with this interesting story in a minute. When I came to, I felt like somebody had played the flight of the bumblebee on the back of my neck with a mallet. I staggered to my feet, sloshed water over my skull, and weaved back into the living room. Milroy had gone. I went to bed. The following morning at the office, an early visitor made an appearance.
Mr. Granger, did my husband come to see you last night?
He did.
I was afraid of that. He's terrible. He looked at me this morning and said it was all set.
All set? What do you mean?
Let me tell you what happened. It was about 9 this morning. I tried to avoid him, but he called me.
Edith, come in here, please. I want to have a talk with you.
I'd rather not listen if it means another scene.
I think you'll hear what I have to say, or there'll be unpleasant consequences. Sit down.
Very well. What is it?
Why did you employ a private detective to follow me? Don't attempt to lie, please. You hired Steve Granger. Why?
Because of the way you've been acting, Elwood.
How else can a husband act who is about to be discarded?
Elwood, I don't want to go over it again. You're grossly jealous of Peter Newman. You don't want to stay married to me, and you also don't want me to marry anybody else.
I don't want you marrying Peter Newman. He's a fool. I refuse to let you make a stupid blunder.
It may seem a blunder to you, but it'll seem like paradise to me.
I'm asking you once more to reconsider. I know that you've consulted an attorney. You'll try to sue me if I don't go ahead with our original agreement.
That is correct.
You forced me to be plain, Edith. I'll get the divorce, not you. And I'll get it when, where, and if I want it. If you start any action against me, you'll regret it for the rest of your life.
the gist of what was said, Mr. Granger. What can I do?
Mrs. Milroy, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a private investigator. And the more I hear about this fight between you and your husband, the less I want any part of it.
You mean you don't want to go ahead and work for me?
Frankly, it doesn't make sense. You think your husband is going to kill your friend. Have you any proof of that at all? Any evidence besides your imagination?
Mr. Granger, when my husband called on you, he intimated that I was unbalanced, didn't he?
I wouldn't say that.
He said something of the kind. I know he did. That's why you're acting the way you are.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Milroy, but I don't think there's anything to this idea you've got.
Very well, I leave. But when you remember this conversation, you'll be sorry.
Edith Milroy swept out the door, gave me a curt nod, and disappeared down the hall. It was pleasant to forget her and get into something that had less of an odor about it. I got engrossed in some other work. At 5 that afternoon, the phone rang. Steve Granger speaking.
Mr. Granger, this is Edith Milroy.
What is it now, Mrs. Milroy?
Is anybody up there looking for me?
No. Why would anybody look for you up here?
Have you read the latest edition of the paper?
No. Why?
Peter Newman was found dead in his apartment early this afternoon. He'd been shot.
Where are you, Mrs. Milroy?
I'm in hiding.
Why?
I'm afraid.
You think your husband did the killing?
I know he did.
Mrs. Milroy, maybe you'd better come up here right now. I'll take you down to police headquarters. You can hand your ideas to homicide.
No, I can't do that. Elwood would do away with me, too.
Mrs. Milroy, listen to reason.
No.
Mrs. Milroy, where have you been all afternoon? Were you at Peter Newman's apartment?
I'll call you later.
Mrs. Milroy. That dame is a little off her rocker. Well, I ask you, wouldn't you think the same? But even so, there was a kind of funny nagging feeling at the back of my head. It might have been just the echo of the rabbit punch delivered by friend Milroy. And again, it might be the feeling that Mrs. Milroy had been right all along. In just a moment, I'll bring you the climax of the case. After Mrs. Milroy's mysterious phone call, I was curious enough to go downstairs and pick up a late afternoon edition. I was still carrying it when the door of Cal Hendrick's apartment shut behind me. The newspaper man wasn't surprised to see me.
Well, Steve, what's the good word today?
What do you know about Elwood Milroy?
He's a criminologist, one of the best in the business.
What else do you know about him? Personally, I mean.
Not much. Has an acrid disposition, not the type who fondles children. Hey, why the interest in Mr. Milroy? You thinking of taking a short course in scientific crime detection?
I might.
So, you are here.
Well, Jake, you know Lieutenant Rankin, Cal.
I know him, but I can't say it's a pleasure.
Cut the comedy, newsboy. Granger, I want a word with you. When you weren't at your office, I figured you'd be here.
What's up, Lieutenant?
Seen the papers? Read about a man named Peter Newman getting shot earlier today?
I might have noticed that little item. Why?
Did a Mrs. Milroy retain you, Granger?
Mrs. Milroy?
We have information that Mrs. Milroy came to you. Why?
Why does anyone come to a private investigator?
Come on. Stop stalling, Granger. Why did she employ you? Was it because she was afraid of her husband? Did she have an idea that her husband was going to kill Newman?
Maybe.
You know where Mrs. Milroy is now?
Nope.
You see, Granger, she's involved in this killing. Up to her ears. The gun that did the killing belonged to her husband. It was by the door.
How do you tie in Mrs. Milroy?
An informant told us that she was at Peter Newman's apartment about the time the killing took place.
Oh?
And speaking of fingerprints, they were a woman's. We'd like to have a little chat with Mrs. Milroy. They were hers.
Uh-huh.
Knowing that you cooperate to the fullest extent with the police department, we wouldn't like to entertain a notion that you might be hiding the suspect.
Dear boy, I wouldn't dream of it.
I'm glad to hear you say that, Granger.
Mr. Granger, I've been looking all over for you. I went to your office, and the man next door told me you might be here.
I am? So what?
I've got to talk to you privately. The police have identified the gun that killed Peter.
Granger.
Yeah?
Do you mind if I enter this charming little group? I'd like to meet this lady.
Oh, so glad to oblige. Mrs. Milroy, let me present Lieutenant Rankin of Homicide.
You're a police officer?
I am Mrs. Milroy, and you and I are going downtown for a little chat.
But I haven't done anything. I'm not guilty. Granger, help me, please.
If he does, he'll be obstructing justice. And if he does that, he'll occupy a cell, too. Come on, Mrs. Milroy.
Interesting little scene, Steve.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Going to help Mrs. Milroy out?
Why should I?
Because you're the Galahad type kid.
Yeah, I guess I am at that. I got on the phone and tried to trace Elwood Milroy, but I was out of luck. Then I went down to police headquarters and had a few words with Lieutenant Rankin. As a result, I was granted an interview with Mrs. Milroy in her cell.
Mr. Granger, please help me. I'm not guilty of murder. I'm not guilty of anything.
You sure, Mrs. Milroy? You were seen going into the building where Peter Newman lived.
That doesn't mean I killed him.
Now, tell me something. Why were your fingerprints on that murder weapon?
It must have been my husband's gun. He had it out a few days ago. There'd been prowlers in the neighborhood, he said, and he wanted me to be able to use it if necessary. He showed me how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't you see? Elwood killed Peter and made it look like I did it.
Well, Granger?
I don't know, Jake.
It looks ungood for her, Granger. She was seen going into Newman's place about the time he was killed.
And what about her husband?
Elwood Milroy is working like a Trojan.
For her?
Of course.
When'd you see him?
Just before you came down.
Has he got an alibi?
An unbreakable one, Granger. He was at his club for lunch. 20 members saw him. He went to an early movie. The usher remembers him.
Sounds almost too perfect.
There's no almost about it, Granger.
Jake, how about letting me examine the apartment where Peter Newman was killed?
With pleasure, pal. I love watching you squirm. As a matter of fact, I'll go along with you. A sort of guided tour.
Oh, thanks.
This is his apartment, Granger.
Hey, how come it isn't sealed?
I forgot to tell you. Her husband is up here working.
The great Milroy himself, huh? Okay, come on. So give me a breakdown on what you found.
Peter Newman was lying over there, alongside the Davenport. The gun was here by the door.
So he didn't shoot himself and throw the gun away.
Got it out.
I thought I heard... Oh, hello, Lieutenant. And it's Mr. Granger, isn't it?
Yeah.
You two know each other?
Quite well, don't we, Granger?
I've got a good notion.
Here, cut that out, Granger. What's the matter with you?
Oh, Granger is a trifle annoyed. We played a little game last night. He lost.
What's this?
Forget it.
If you'll excuse me, I'll get back to my work.
Wise guy.
What happened?
Well, he came up to my place. I tried to throw him out.
You what? He's one of the country's foremost exponents of judo.
Don't worry. I found it out. Let's go. There's nothing here.
Okay.
Hey, do they have a doorman in this building?
They do. He's got a little office just inside the door.
Good. This it?
Yeah.
Yes?
I want to ask you some questions about Peter Newman.
Oh, I don't know about that.
That's all right, Smith. You can answer them.
I didn't see you there, Lieutenant. What is it, sir?
Were you on duty when Peter Newman was shot?
I was.
Now, how many people came to see him?
He had only one visitor. That Mrs. Milroy. She came to see him.
Nobody else, huh?
No, sir.
How about deliveries of one kind or another, like laundry or groceries?
Well, now that you mention it, there was one delivery made. A messenger he was. Had a box of candy.
Messenger, what did he look like?
Rather old, I'd say. His hair was very gray. Had kind of a stoop.
Was this his usual delivery?
Never saw him before.
Thanks a lot. Rankin, let's go back to Newman's apartment. I want to find that box of candy. Peter Newman's apartment yielded the box of candy. One piece was gone. Gave me an idea. One that took me back downtown to police headquarters. And another quick visit with Mrs. Edith Milroy.
Mr. Granger.
Mrs. Milroy, how well did you know Peter Newman's habits?
What habits, Mr. Granger?
Well, for instance, if he chewed gum or if he had candy.
I don't think that Peter was very fond of candy.
Mm-hmm. Would he be the type of person who'd have a box of candy sent to his apartment rather than go out and pick it up in person?
That's a strange question. I wouldn't know.
One more thing. When you were in Newman's apartment, did you notice a freshly opened box of candy?
No. And what's a box of candy got to do with this?
It probably spells the difference between life and death for you, Mrs. Milroy. I went back to Rankin's office and found him working like a beaver with a leak in his dam. The request I made was barely out of the ordinary.
But, Granger, we've gone through his things. What makes you think you'll find something?
Lieutenant, this is a routine request. I want to look over his clothes.
All right, but you're wasting my time, which is paid for with the taxpayer's money.
Which is my money because I'm a taxpayer. So come on, servant, show me Peter Newman's stuff. Rankin took me down to the morgue where I pored over Peter Newman's belongings. There was the usual wallet with the usual identification cards and whatnot. I went over his suit with great care, even pinching the buttons. When I got to the cuffs on his trousers, I found a little something. A little something that sent me on an errand that took me first to a druggist.
Why, yes, sir. I can identify this pill. It's a prescription from one of my customers.
Are you at liberty to tell me who this customer is?
I'm not sure if I can divulge that information or not.
If it's a matter of police business, could you?
Oh, in that event, I'm sure I could.
The druggist gave me the first solid clue. Then I headed for a certain movie house. The cashier at the theater, bright-eyed and sharp, gave me the second. When I'd finished with her, I got Rankin to meet me at a certain address.
So this is where the Milroys live, huh?
Right.
You're not trying to tell me that Elwood Milroy killed Peter Newman.
Wait and find out.
Well, how do you do, gentlemen? Come in.
Thanks.
To what do I owe the pleasure of this visit?
Elwood Milroy, you shot and killed Peter Newman and framed your wife.
Please, Granger, don't be silly. Excuse me a second.
If you're thinking of getting a gun, I'd forget it.
I know what he's looking for, Jake. His pills. What's the matter, Milroy? Nervous? Need a couple of your pills to steady you down?
They're prescription. My doctor told me to take them.
I know. Your druggist told me about them.
Druggist?
That's where you made your first mistake, Milroy. That and one other place, the theater. The cashier saw you go in, but nobody saw you leave.
Obviously. There was a crowd leaving with me. The picture was over.
You left before the end of the picture.
Really? Then how is it I can recite the movie's entire plot?
Because you went to the same theater the day before. The cashier remembers that visit. But that wasn't your biggest mistake, Milroy, isn't it? When did you see Peter Newman last?
2 weeks ago.
Oh, no. It was much more recently. Today, in fact. You walked into his apartment disguised as a messenger. And I know you were there, Mr. Crime, come judo expert. Because you keep flipping those pills of yours, and I found one of those pills in the dead man's trouser cuff. You must have been a bit nervous and dropped one. Funny how often a little thing will fall into a guy's trouser cuff.
How does that prove I saw him today? Might have happened 2 weeks ago.
Bad luck, Milroy. Newman had his suit cleaned the day before. Yet, Milroy, you laughed at me because I'm the type who runs around with his nose to the ground. But if I hadn't, I would never have found the clue that busted your perfect crime. And that'll send you to the chair.
You dirty snoop! I'll kill you!
Rankin, look out! You get away! Well, friends, that's the story. I'll be back to wrap up the case in just a minute. Elwood Milroy went to hospital with a bullet through the arm. With evidence piling up against him, he was accused of killing Peter Newman. Ultimately, he was convicted. I paid a call on my friend, Lieutenant Jake Rankin, at his office.
Well, Granger, you might be interested. Elwood Milroy was sentenced to the chair this morning.
So much for his too-perfect alibi, huh, Jake? And for old-fashioned detective method.
Yeah. You see Mrs. Milroy?
Saw her just an hour ago. She saw me, too. With a neat check, complete with numbers.
You know, you were lucky finding that pill. How'd you ever dream it up?
Because I'm no great hand at criminology. I just run around with my nose to the ground.
Would you do that in here?
Hardly. This joint's got sawdust on the floor.
In that case, you won't mind if I pick up that $5 bill down there.
What? Hey, that's mine. I've been meaning to have that hole in my pocket sewn up.
Too bad, Gumshoe. I had my nose to the ground that time.
Well, that's one for the books. The Flatfoot was his own bloodhound. Steve Granger again. You've just heard one of the most interesting cases in my files. And I'll have another one for you. So be around next time.
Murder by Experts. The Mutual Broadcasting System presents Murder by Experts, with your host and narrator, Mr. John Dixon Carr, world-famous mystery novelist and author of the recently published bestseller, The Life of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
This is John Dixon Carr. Each evening at this time, Murder by Experts brings you a story of crime and mystery which has been chosen for your approval by one of the world's leading detective writers, those experts who are themselves masters of the art of murder and can hold tensity at its highest. Tonight's guest expert is Mr. Hugh Pentecost, author of many memorable thrillers, who has selected a story by a young newcomer you'll do well to watch, Andrew Evans. Be very careful as you listen, for, as Mr. Pentecost says of this thriller, the story has not only a twist, but an unforeseen double twist, which takes one completely by surprise. And now we present Summer Heat. Look now at the old elms, the ivy-covered buildings on the campus of a small Midwestern university. It's a fine June afternoon when you hear laughter and the greetings of the reunion of the class of 36. 12 years have passed, but none of the members of the class seems much older to each other. There's the dark-haired Paul Baxter wandering rather strangely. There are two of his old friends, prosperous now, judged by their clothes, and boisterous in greeting.
Paul Baxter, you old rascal. It's sure good to see you again.
Hello, Steve. Bert, this is a surprise.
Why didn't you ever write to us, Paul? You had our addresses. Why, sure. That's no way to treat old classmates. Just think, 12 years. Yeah. Oh, they sure have gone fast.
Too fast to suit me. Say, Paul, you've turned awful gray for only 33.
Well, he always did take things too seriously. I suppose by now, Paul, you're one of the biggest lawyers in the state, huh? How's Marcia?
Yeah, you were all set to marry her after graduation, remember?
Yes, and you were going to become her father's junior law partner. Oh, you sure had a sweet setup there.
Well, things worked out a little differently. You see, that party we had graduation night. Do you remember it?
Remember it? How can we forget it?
Oh, that was a real blowout. And were you tight, Paul?
Well, you know, that party sort of changed my whole life.
Changed your life? Well, how?
Well, I don't remember much about the party itself. I guess I had too many drinks. In fact, I don't remember anything until I woke up the next morning. I could hear old Trinity ringing. I awoke to find myself on the couch in my living room. It was noon, and the room was hot, stiflingly hot. I remembered I had a date with Marcia and her father at 1 o'clock. I got to my feet. My head ached. There were heat waves before my eyes. Feeling sick, I staggered toward my bedroom, and then I saw him. A man, asleep on my bed, his back to me. For a moment, I stood there, trying to remember if someone had come home from the party with me. But the night before was a total blank. I crossed to the bed, bent over, shook his shoulder. Hey, fella. Hey, it's noon. Wake up. Come on, wake up. As I shook him, he had flopped over and looked up at me with staring eyes. He was dead. And there was a knife in his chest. My hunting knife. I stood stunned, staring down at the body on my bed. The dead man was an utter stranger to me. He was neatly dressed in old clothes. And my knife was in his heart. I killed him. I couldn't remember when or how or why, but I'd killed him. Frantically, I tried to remember what had happened. Was he a panhandler? Someone I'd met on the street and drunkenly brought home with me? I didn't know. I couldn't remember. As I stood there, trying to get a grip on myself, I suddenly realized there was someone at the door. Instinctively, I walked into the living room and towards the door. Just as I was about to open it, I realized the danger of letting anyone into the apartment. I put my ear against the door and listened. I heard voices. Yours, Steve. And yours, Bert.
Hey, Paul, open up. We want to say goodbye. Come on, Paul. Wake up, will you? We're leaving for California in 15 minutes.
I guess old Paul isn't in.
Yeah. I wonder how he felt when he woke up.
Boy, what a head he must have had.
Still, I'd sure hate to leave without saying goodbye.
Well, he has our California address. He can write to us. Come on, or we'll miss that train.
Then they were both gone, and I dared to breathe again. I tried to think calmly, figure out what to do. I knew I should call the police, but they might charge me with murder. And what defense could I offer? I thought of Marcia. The slightest scandal and everything would be off. Our marriage, my job, my future. I couldn't call the police. I couldn't call them and sacrifice everything I'd worked for. Somehow I had to get the body out of my apartment, get rid of it before it was found. Then it came to me. My car was in the basement, garage. The dumbwaiter in the kitchen led down to the basement. I could put the dead man in the dumbwaiter, lower him to the basement, get him in my car, and then...
Mr. Paul! Oh, Mr. Paul!
It was Jenny, the cleaning woman. She'd let herself in with a key. I hurried into the living room, closing the bedroom door behind me.
Oh, there you are. A fine time for a rising young lawyer to be getting up.
Oh, hello, Jenny. I guess I overslept. I was at a party last night.
A party, was it? Everyone on the campus is talking about it. And the complaints. Well, now, step aside and let me into that bedroom. I got to start cleaning.
Jenny, can't you come back later and do the place?
No, I can't. Now, get out of my way.
Jenny, wait. I don't want you to clean up yet.
Paul, what's wrong? Why are you blocking the door like that?
Well, the truth of the matter is, one of the boys had a bit too much last night, and he's in my bedroom sleeping it off.
Oh, well, get him out of there. Take him to a Turkish bath.
Turkish bath? Oh, yes, that's a good idea. Look, Jenny, just give me half an hour to get him dressed and out of here. Then you can come back and clean up.
A half hour, nothing. I'll give you exactly 5 minutes.
All right, Jenny, I'll have him out of here by then.
You'd better.
She was gone, and I had 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. I went into the bedroom and quickly went through the dead man's pockets. They were empty. There was no identification in them. The thin, pinched face told me he was a nobody, a derelict, someone who might never be missed. As I was about to lift him off the bed, the phone rang. Its shrill ring filled the room. Hello?
Hello, darling.
Marcia.
How was your stag party last night? Did you miss me?
Miss you?
You sound as though you have a dreadful hangover.
Hangover? Oh, yes. Oh, excuse me a minute, Marcia. There's someone at the door. Yes?
I'll be coming in to clean your room in another minute, Paul.
Jenny.
So get your friend out of there.
Oh, yes, Jenny, yes. Just give me another minute and we'll be out of here. Marcia, I can't talk to you any longer. I'm in a hurry.
Then you haven't forgotten your appointment with Father and myself at 1 o'clock.
No. I may be a little late, but I'll be there.
Paul, you mustn't be late. I've told you over and over what a stickler Father is for punctuality. He can't stand people who are late for appointments. Well, you recall how furious he was when you didn't
I know,
show up.
Marcia, but
You have 45 minutes to shave, shower, and dress. That's plenty of time. And, Paul, wear your gray flannel suit with a blue knitted tie and be sure you're there on
Yes,
time,
Marcia, yes, but I've got to hang up. Jenny will be coming back any minute that I...
Well, what if she is? Now, darling, you haven't forgotten what we discussed yesterday afternoon.
Yesterday afternoon.
Yes. No, I know Father's brusque and inclined to bully people, but don't let it upset you. After all, it's our future he's...
Marcia, I can't talk any longer. I've got to hang up. Jenny will be back. I've only seconds left.
What in the world are you talking about? Now, when Father asks...
Marcia, I've got to hang up. I've got to. Goodbye. I hung up the phone and wiped the sweat running down my face. It took only a moment to lift him off the bed, carry him into the kitchen, pull the dumbwaiter up, and put his body into it. I closed the door to the dumbwaiter, ran out of the apartment, and started down the stairs to the basement. I got down to the basement to find Ben, the janitor, leisurely pulling on the dumbwaiter rope. Ben! Oh, Ben!
Oh, well, Paul. If it's your car you're after, it's there by the door, all washed like you asked.
Thanks, but Ben, stop a minute, will you? I want you to do something for me.
Sure, Paul, just as soon as I've emptied this dumbwaiter.
Will you stop blowing that dumbwaiter? Stop, you hear?
Hey, what's wrong with you? You're acting mighty strange.
I'm sorry I shouted like that, Ben. It's just that... Well, there's a package up in my apartment that I'd like you to mail right away. There's $1 in it for you.
All right. But there ain't no need to rush. Today's Sunday. The post office is closed.
Closed?
Sure. Say, what's the matter with you anyway? Must be the heat. Something awful heavy on this dumbwaiter.
Wait a minute. There's something else.
How's that?
Stop a minute, will you? How can I talk to you while you're lowering that dumbwaiter?
Well, go ahead. I can hear everything you're saying.
Let go of that rope. Let go, you hear?
Hey! You going crazy or something? I've half a mind to call the super and tell him what
No, don't do that. Ben, up in my apartment, there's a bottle.
Bottle?
Yes, I brought it home last night. It's half full. I wanted you to have it for cleaning the car.
Oh, thanks. I sure appreciate that, Paul. I'll go up and get it as soon as I've emptied this dumbwaiter. It's almost down now.
But Ben, Jenny just went in to clean. You know how she feels about drinking?
Jenny? Jumping grasshoppers. Why didn't you say so? That woman will pour it all down the drain if I don't get there first.
As soon as Ben disappeared up the stairs, I pulled the dumbwaiter the rest of the way down, opened the door, and he fell into my arms. Slinging the body over my shoulder, I staggered with it to my car and swiftly dropped him on the floor in the back. It was an old touring car. The top was long since gone. To hide the body from view, I covered it with an old blanket. A moment later, I started the motor and rolled smoothly out of the basement and into the driveway. As I did, I heard Ben shouting to me from my window.
Oh, hey, Paul, wait a minute. I got something.
I pretended not to hear Ben calling. Instead, I stepped on the gas. I was almost proud of myself as I drove past the campus. I was in trouble, but I was thinking fast, as a good lawyer should. I'd already decided I'd have to get rid of him by dumping him into the river. As I came to Main Street, driving neither too fast nor too slow, I turned left toward the river. There was very little traffic, and I was just about to speed up when behind me I heard a whistle blowing. It was Dugan, the town's only traffic cop, and he was blowing for me to stop. There was nothing to do but pull over to the curb. As Dugan hurried up to me, I realized I'd driven through a red light. Hello, Dugan.
Never mind that hello, Dugan stuff. What's the matter, you colorblind?
I'm sorry, Dugan. I just didn't notice the light.
You just didn't notice the light. That's fine. Think you and me had better take a ride over to Justice Miller.
Oh, look, don't run me in, Dugan. It won't happen again.
That's what all you college cut-ups say. Next thing you know, you'll be telling me... What do you got there in the back? Underneath that blanket.
Under the blanket?
You heard me. What's under it?
Why, that's Roy Hamilton, one of my classmates.
Yeah, well, what's he lying on the floor under a blanket on a hot day like this for?
Last night at our farewell shindig, Roy had a few too many. He's still out. I'm taking him home.
Where does he live?
At Mrs. Randolph's boarding house.
What are you handing me? That's in the other direction.
Yes, I know, but first I'm taking him to the Turkish bath on Elm Street.
Yeah, well, by the time you get him there, the poor guy will be dead. Ain't you got no sense?
What do you mean?
Look at the way you got the blanket over his head and in this heat, too. I better pull the blanket off his face so he can breathe.
No. I mean, I covered his face on purpose. Suppose Dean Richards or somebody saw Roy like this.
Yeah, that's right. But just the same, I better...
Constable, can I see you for a minute?
I'll be right with you, Jensen. Where were we, Baxter? Oh, yeah, the guy in the back. He'll smother to death if we don't move the...
It's important. I've got to see you right away.
I'm coming. I won't run you in this time, Baxter, but from now on, stay awake when you're driving.
I will, Dugan.
And for Pete's sake, pull the blanket off that guy's head. Take it easy, Jensen. I'm coming.
As I stepped on the gas, I muttered a prayer of thanks for old Johnson, the janitor of the medical school building, who had called Dugan just as he was reaching for the blanket that covered my passenger. It was a few minutes after 1 as I drove out of town. I could picture Marcia's father fuming in my lateness. The sun was scorching in my open car as I drove along River Road, looking for a place to hide the body. I needed one where there were trees to hide me. The hours that followed were like a nightmare. The heat was stifling, and I could feel my hand shaking on the wheel from nervous tension. I drove, looking for a place to get rid of the body. But the whole countryside seemed to be swarming with people, families picnicking, Boy Scouts camping, kids in swimming, couples in parked cars. No matter where I turned, there was always someone in sight. Little spots danced before my eyes. Waves of faintness swept over me. My hand began to ache, and my head, too. Unbearably. It was already long after 3. I was late for my date with Marcia and her father. That didn't matter. Nothing mattered but to get rid of the body in the back of the car. I had to get rid of it. I had to. I drove, mile after mile, turning from one road to another, searching endlessly for a safe place to stop. Then I realized I was running out of gas. I saw a gas station ahead, and I decided to stop there. It was a risk, but I had to take it.
Okay, mister. That's 5 gallons. Want me to check your oil?
No, thanks. How much?
It's $1.15.
Whew, boy, it's hot, isn't it?
Yes, it's hot, all right. Here you are.
That's $1.15 out of 5. Now get your change. Hey, this rear tire looks a little flat.
That's all right.
You want me to check it? Won't take but a minute.
It's all right, I tell you.
Okay, mister, just you say. Your rear door's open. I better shut that for you.
Leave that door alone.
But you don't want to drive along with your rear door open. That's funny. There's something in the car jamming it. I better have...
Leave that door alone and get my change.
But you... All right, mister. Just as you say. Get your change.
He hurried into the station. I looked in the back of the car and saw what had kept the door from closing. It was a hand. His hand sticking out from under the blanket. The attendant had seen it. He would be phoning the police. I drove faster and faster. The police would be on the lookout for me now. My whole future depended on what I did in the next few minutes. And then it came to me. In one brief moment, it came to me. The perfect way to get rid of the body was so simple, so perfect, that I laughed aloud with relief. A half hour later, I was parked in an alley behind one of the university buildings. It was Sunday, and the place was deserted. Despite my fatigue and aching head, it took me but a moment to carry the body into the basement of the medical building and down the corridor to the basement room where the bodies for the dissecting classes were kept. Where does a wise man hide a leaf? In a forest. Where does a wise man hide a body? In the dissecting room. The room was big and cool and dimly lit. The far end was a long metal tank. I reached the tank and lowered him to the stone floor beside it. I had only to open the tank, slip him inside, and leave. I reached for the lid of the preserving tank and was about to open it when I heard a voice.
Hey, who's in there?
It was Johnson, the janitor. I quickly dropped behind the tank and waited, holding my breath.
I heard you. Stop hiding and come out. I know you're here. I just saw your car through the window. You better come out if you know what's good for you.
He'd seen my car. He knew I was in the room. But if I kept my head, there was a chance. Just a chance.
All right, Johnson. Here I am.
Baxter, eh? So it's you, is it? You're the one who...
Johnson, wait a minute. Let me explain.
Explain, huh? After last night, I'm not listening to any fancy stories. I'm the one who gets blamed when... What's that on the floor behind you there?
On the floor? What? Why, nothing, Johnson.
Do you think I'm blind or something? Step aside and let me see what... Why, it's a body.
Yes. It's a body.
So that's it. I thought you were trying to steal one. Instead, you were bringing it.
Yes, I was bringing it.
And just what were you going to do with that gentleman on the floor? Put him back in the tank with the rest?
Yes, that's right. I thought he might not be noticed.
As if I wouldn't have known.
Well, go on. Call the cops. Let's get it over with.
All right, Baxter. Of course, I don't have to call the cops. Nobody knows about this but you and me.
What do you mean?
Well, I was going to make a report, but this way there's no harm done, so I might be able to overlook the whole thing if I was persuaded properly.
You might overlook it?
That's right. You just leave this fella to me and there's no fuss because nobody's the wiser.
You'd do that? You'd keep your mouth shut?
I guess I could be persuaded to.
How much?
Well, suppose we say $50.
$50?
That isn't much, considering what would happen if I reported you.
Oh, no, it isn't $50. That's very cheap to help me cover up a murder.
Murder? More of your jokes. I'm not talking about murder. I'm talking about putting number 37 here back in his proper place.
Number 37?
Yes, 37. He just came in yesterday from the county poor farm, and last night he disappeared, stolen by you and your drunken friends, and dressed up for a joke. Well, I don't like jokes like that. I drove downtown a while back to tell Dugan the constable about it, but... Well, I didn't tell him anything. It would mean trouble for me for being asleep on the job.
Number 37. He was stolen from here last night.
Aye, that's what I said. As long as you've brought him back, there's no harm done. That's why I'm willing to keep it quiet.
Then I didn't kill him. It was just a joke somebody played on me. Just a practical joke.
Here. What's wrong with you?
It's a joke. It's a very good joke on me. This whole afternoon driving in the heat, trying to get rid of him. It was just a joke. A joke.
For goodness sakes, he's fainted.
Well, that's the story of what happened the day after our graduation party 12 years ago. When I came to, I was in the college hospital. I'd been unconscious a week. They said it was just a slight breakdown brought on by sunstroke. I was all right after a while, but Somehow I wasn't interested in law anymore. Marcia and I didn't get married, and I didn't become her father's junior law partner.
Good Lord, Paul. We never knew any of this.
Gosh, Paul, I can't tell you how sorry I am. We never dreamed our gag would turn out like that. Your gag?